Chapter 724. On the way downstairs, Xiao Yunjie pointed at Wu Zhirua and scolded, "Wu Zhirua, your friend is courting death. Look at how angry he is with my cousin." Wu Zhirua's face was livid and she didn't say a word. Originally, Luo Ziho was looking for people to spread the news in the Tulip Hall, wanting to crush Jiang Tian. But when Zhang Huchen arrived and turned the situation around, everyone suddenly felt that they couldn't understand Jiang Tian. No one dared to act rashly. However, as soon as Xiao Yunhao stepped forward, many young masters heard the news and followed him, wanting to pressure Jiang Tian. After all, Xiao Yunhao was the focus of the entire party, and his every move attracted attention. After a while, Xiang Qian, He Hongchen's nephew, Kai Xiaofei, Wan Chuha, and more than a dozen young masters surrounded Xiao Yunhao. It's over, it's over. These mainland kids are done for. Xiao family, that's a real top family, one of the 4 major families in Hong Kong. Yeah, even his father, Xiao Shikuan, can talk to the chief executive as an equal. Xiao Yunhao, Bamboo United Gang, Number Gang, and other forces in Hong Kong. Who can withstand their wrath? Seeing a group of people walking towards Jiang Tian, everyone was shocked. They knew that Jiang Tian was done for tonight. Wu Zhirua's face was pale. If Xiao Yunhao stepped forward, Jiang Tian would have no chance of turning the situation around. Mr. Zhang's dancing almost broke my leg. At this time, Su Zixuan, Fang Minxia, and Li Huiyan were chatting with Jiang Tian. Zixuan. Su Zixuan was holding Jiang Tian's arm with one hand and covering her stomach with the other. Suddenly, she heard a cold voice. She turned around and saw Xiao Yunhao staring at her coldly. "Young Master Xiao." Su Zixuan's face stiffened. How could she not know Xiao Yunhao's pursuit of her? But she was a cultivator, and she didn't care about worldly wealth. Therefore, Xiao Yunhao's wealth and background, which was an unparalleled temptation to other women, was not attractive to Su Zixuan at all. In her eyes, there were only geniuses like Jiang Tian. Even if Xiao Yunhao couldn't be compared with Jiang Tian, as long as he had some ability, it would be enough. Unfortunately, Xiao Yunhao was just an ordinary person. "Su Zixuan, is this your friend? Why don't you introduce him?" Xiao Yunhao smiled meaningfully. "Jiang Tian. He's not my friend. He's the one I'm pursuing. Unfortunately, he hasn't accepted me yet." Su Zixuan suddenly had an idea and laughed. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd went into an uproar. This was a slap to Xiao Yunhao's face. Wu Zhirua was also shocked. The girls by Jiang Tian's side, Fang Minxia, Su Zixuan, and Li Huiyan, which one of them was 10 times more noble than him? Could it be that he was mistaken? She suddenly remembered Jiang Tian's words. "I, Jiang Tian, can get any woman I want with a flick of my finger." She still can't forget you and is still brooding over it. She originally thought that Jiang Tian was bragging. But now, she had no choice but to believe it. Suddenly, she felt like she had been slapped a few times, and her face turned red. He was already married. Su Zixuan was still pursuing him. Wasn't she willing to be a mistress? What kind of charm was this? Xiao Yunhao was so angry that his face turned green, and he gritted his teeth. But as the most eligible bachelor in Hong Kong, he couldn't use women as an excuse. It was too embarrassing. He was too narrow-minded. If he didn't have the charm and ability to make women follow him, then he would use his gun to threaten others. That was something that only trash like Wan Chuha would do. If Xiao Yunhao wanted to stand out, he would have to find a more honorable reason to win people's hearts. He wanted to humiliate Jiang Tian and make Jiang Tian and Su Zixuan realize the huge gap between him and Jiang Tian. He also wanted to gain the support, admiration, and allegiance of all the young masters in Hong Kong. He walked to Jiang Tian and stood in front of him. Like a god, he looked down at the crowd and shouted coldly, "Brother Jiang Tian. I heard that you guys have been stirring up trouble in Hong Kong and stirring up a lot of trouble. Just because of a small matter, you have seriously affected the peace and harmony of Hong Kong and the unity of both sides of the Taiwan Strait. And this time, you beat someone up in public at a gathering of celebrities. You have no respect for Hong Kong's upper-class society. Now, on behalf of the upper-class society in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, I want you to apologize to them, and I will let you off the hook. Who are you? Jiang Tian gave him a sidelong glance and asked disdainfully. You are as blind as a bat. This is Xiao Shikuan's son, Xiao Yunhao. Sun Jiaro looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and scolded. Even the Xiao family's eldest young master is here. Are you still not going to apologize? Wu Chu shouted coldly. Wu Zhirua also shouted anxiously, Jiang Tian, don't force yourself. This is your only chance to live. Even though Jiang Tian and Li Zhikai were close friends, Li Zhikai would not offend Xiao Yunhao for Jiang Tian. Superman Li and Xiao Shikuan had been working together to control Hong Kong's real estate industry for many years. Meanwhile, Xiang Qian, Kai Xiaofei, and Wan Chuho were smirking as they sipped their red wine. There was a huge gap between them and Xiao Yunhao. Once Xiao Yunhao showed up, he didn't need to do anything. Jiang Tian was dead meat. Luo Ziho's lips curled into a mocking smile as he sipped his red wine. So what if Jiang Tian knows Li Zhikai? All I need to do is to add fuel to the fire and you will become everyone's target. Ha ha ha, Wu Zhirua will still choose me after you die. Hearing this, Jiang Tian's face was as calm as still water. He raised his hand and pointed at the few people. Now, kneel down and kowtow to me. Otherwise, I will break your legs. Everyone's face changed color after hearing what he said. Xiao Yunhao was even more enraged. His eyes were about to spit fire. Wu Chu and Sun Jiaro covered their mouths as they looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. They had no idea why he would say something like that. Xiang Qian represented Yi and Club and the Number Gang. Kai Xiaofei represented Macau's gambling king He Hongchen. Wan Chuha represented Taiwan's United Bamboo Gang. Xiao Yunhao represented Guo Shikuan's family. What the fuck? This kid had offended the entire upper-class society in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Many socialites and young women who were watching secretly shook their heads. This kid really didn't know what was good for him. Even if he was a relative of the Zhang family in Yanjin, he wouldn't be able to walk out of the convention center alive. Jiang Tian, you really are a donkey. Do you want to offend the entire upper-class society in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan? Wu Zhirua shook her head in disappointment. With your temper and your way of doing things, you will never amount to anything. No wonder the Medicine King Group was forced to withdraw from the market and was beaten up badly by the Liu family and the Song family. What kind of person doesn't know how to judge the situation and compromise? You are destined to be a failure. She then remembered the conversation she had with Jiang Tian a few days ago at the coffee shop near the Peninsula Hotel. Jiang Tian insisted that he was some kind of master who had defeated the army of a superpower. He even said that he had a few thousand villas worth hundreds of billions of dollars. From then on, she knew that Jiang Tian was a person who would never lose in terms of dignity even if he lost in battle. No matter how painful it was, he would grit his teeth and endure it. Even if he was beaten to a pulp, he wouldn't give in. Xiao Yunhao didn't say anything. Men, hurry up and chase this mainland maniac out of here. With Xiao Yunhao present, Kai Xiaofei became bolder. He became arrogant and domineering as he shouted at the security guards. Slap him. Jiang Tian raised his brows and pulled a taut face. Yes, sir. Jiang Chao stepped forward and slapped Kai Xiaofei across the face. Kai Xiaofei was sent flying 3 meters away like a scarecrow. He fell to the ground and his face was swollen with bruises. What the fuck? Open the door. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had heard of Jiang Tian's arrogance, but they had never seen it with their own eyes. Now that they had seen it with their own eyes, they were even more shocked. Aren't you He Hongchen's nephew? Jiang Chao grabbed him and slapped him across the face, causing all of his teeth to fly out. Aren't you a big shot? Keep it up. Jiang Chao slapped him again. Kai Xiaofei passed out and didn't make a sound. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. This mainland maniac was out of his mind. He Hongchen was on the 3rd floor. How dare they hit him? It's over. It's over. Wu Zhirua almost fainted when she saw that. She was worried for Jiang Tian. However, when she remembered that she had warned Jiang Tian several times, but Jiang Tian still refused to back down, she was even more frustrated. You must think that you can do whatever you want with Fang Minxia and Su Zixuan behind you. But you don't know how influential Xiao Shikuan's family is in Hong Kong and Huaxia. Forget it. I have tried my best to persuade you. I don't care about you anymore. At this moment, everyone was shocked and deathly silent. However, the hot-tempered Fang Qian pointed at Jiang Tian's nose and shouted. Jiang Tian, you are just a country bumpkin from China. How dare you challenge us young masters from Hong Kong? Do you know that you will die a horrible death if you do this? Slap him. Jiang Tian picked up a glass of red wine, took a sip, and said calmly. Slap. Without another word, Cheng Yi strode forward and slapped him across the face, sending him flying 7 to 8 meters away. Fang Qian fell to the ground without making a sound. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The security guards panicked. Some called for an ambulance and some went upstairs to report the incident. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Where is Li Shikai? Ask Shikai to come down and take him down. Xiao Yinhao was so angry that he smashed 2 glasses. Jiang Tian slapped Fang Qian in front of him. That meant that he was not taking him seriously at all. What a humiliation. That was the real humiliation. The commotion was too big. The news quickly spread to the Red Peony Hall upstairs. Many tycoons were alerted. A moment later, under the escort of many powerful figures, Xiang Qiangsheng, the tycoon of Hong Kong, walked down the stairs and approached Jiang Tian. Everyone retreated one after another, opening up a path. Their eyes were filled with fear. Even Xiao Yinhao nodded and said, Uncle Xiang, it's all my fault. I didn't protect Fang Qian well. Although Xiang Qiangsheng was not as powerful as Superman Li and the other 3 tycoons. But the problem was that Xiang Qiangsheng was a member of a secret society. He was a tycoon of a secret society. He was the kind of person who could kill without batting an eyelid. This kind of person might not be able to make you successful, but he could crush you in a matter of minutes. He could not be offended. Chapter 725. It's not your fault. It's those tycoons from the mainland who are too cruel. Xiang Qiangsheng forced a smile and tried to maintain his composure. The ambulance had not arrived yet. He fell to the ground, motionless. His face was smashed, revealing his fangs as blood flowed out. Xiang Qiangsheng glanced at his son and felt sorry for him. But he was still a tycoon who had dominated Hong Kong for decades. He quickly calmed himself down and looked at Jiang Tian coldly. Did you hit him? Him? He's just a dog. How can I hit him? My men did it. Jiang Tian sneered. Xiang Qiangsheng's face turned red and his body trembled. He felt like his lungs were about to explode. Huaxing Movie and Xu Min were banned from the industry. His son was beaten so badly in front of him, and he was even scolded like a dog. It was a great humiliation and the biggest defeat in his life. He could not accept it. Jiang, don't think that you can do whatever you want in Hong Kong just because you have the Zhang family behind you. Xiang Qiangsheng said coldly. If you don't give me an explanation today, the Xiang family will fight you to the death. What makes you think you can fight me to the death? Jiang Tian looked at him with a half-smile. You don't even know who I am and you dare to fight me? By the way, I told you to get out of Hong Kong in 3 days. Did they not deliver the message or did you not take it seriously? Jiang, you don't know what you're doing. Xiang Qiangsheng was so angry that his body trembled. Tell the leader of Yi and Shi, Xiang Qiangsheng, to get out of Hong Kong. Not even the chief of the security bureau dared to say that. Xiang Qiangsheng's face turned pale. Now, the Zhang family of Yanjin dares to fight me. They don't know what's good for them. I, Xiang Qiangsheng, will make you cower in fear. He, Jiang Tian sneered and looked at him with disdain. He did not even bother to argue with him. Xiang Qiangsheng was so angry that his face turned pale. Everyone around also shook their heads. He dared to be so arrogant in front of Xiang Qiangsheng. This mainland young man did not know what was good for him. Not to mention anything else, would you be able to dodge if a few men of sacrifice were to shoot you from the back? Jiang, I know that your grandfather, the Zhang clan, is powerful. You're not afraid of my Xiang clan, but what if they join in? Xiang Qiangsheng suddenly regained his calm and said loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, another group of people came forward, led by Wei Duangong. Wei Duangong, Number Gang's leader. Number Gang's main force is in Europe. Even if Jiang Tian is backed by Yanjing, he can't control Europe. Seeing Wei Duangong's arrival, many tycoons and celebrities exclaimed in surprise. Even though Jiang Tian had the Zhang family's red background, he couldn't do anything to Wei Duangong. After all, they were an international club, and their influence was in Europe. I'd like to see if he can trample Hong Kong. Arrogant. This kid is too arrogant. Seeing this, Luo Ziho and a few other second-tier and third-tier tycoons also stepped forward and followed Xiao Yunhao. They all had extraordinary backgrounds and were quite wealthy. Their family assets were all worth tens of billions. Wu Jiruo's face changed color as her body trembled. She had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so arrogant and offend so many people. Wei Duangong, Yang Shoucheng, Xiang Qiangsheng, Xiao Yunhao. They were all influential figures in Hong Kong. Kai Xiaofei was backed by the gambling king of Macau, He Hongqian. Wan Chuho was the son of Wan Qili from the United Bamboo Gang in Taiwan. Everyone stepped forward to pressure Jiang Tian. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. So many tycoons were enraged. It was as if a volcano had erupted. Even Zhang Zhonghua, the current family lord of the Zhang family, would not be able to withstand the pressure, let alone a junior of the Zhang family. Let's see how he will trample us. Let him be. Then, all the celebrities from Hong Kong, Taiwan and Macau stood against Jiang Tian. What are you waiting for? Do you want to die? Why are you standing with this poor guy? Wu Chuchu scolded and pulled Wu Zhirua aside. But, Wu Zhirua hesitated for a few seconds. In the end, she heaved a sigh and walked to the opposite side of Jiang Tian. This was the time for her to make a stand. If she didn't stand out, she would be ostracized by everyone in the future. She wouldn't be able to survive. Wu Zhiruo's friend. Does the Wu family not want to stay in Hong Kong anymore? At this moment, some of the young masters were already glaring at Wu Zhirua with unkind eyes, gnashing their teeth. The Wu family owes my bank tens of millions. The one who spoke was the young chairman of Hong Kong's credit bank. Humph. I will ask the bank to take back their loan. I will make them bankrupt overnight. Wu Zhirua was so scared that she almost fell to the ground. She quickly waved her hand and said, I don't know him. He has nothing to do with my family. She was extremely regretful. She should have ignored Jiang Tian when he first came to Hong Kong. She should have pretended that she never knew him. In a blink of an eye, the scene was divided into two distinct groups. There were hundreds of people from Hong Kong, Taiwan and Macau. Each of them had a powerful aura. On the other hand, Jiang Tian was all alone. It was as if the whole world had turned against him. On the other hand, there were Jiang Chao, Zhen Shuai and Cheng Yi. Do you still want to trample Hong Kong? Who gave you such confidence? If you have the balls, you can trample on all of us. Wei Duangong sneered. There are so many of us here. Any one of us can crush him to death. Yang Shouqing sipped his red wine and sneered disdainfully at the mainland youth who was acting recklessly in his eyes. I don't believe that we can't crush him with so many of us here. If he doesn't, he will die a horrible death. Xiang Qiangxing sneered, his hatred soaring to the heavens. Everyone thought that Jiang Tian was going to give in. To their surprise, Jiang Tian sat calmly on the chair. He looked around and sneered. Is that all? Not enough for me to trample on. How about a few more heavyweights? What? This is not enough for him to trample on. Are you going to trample on Superman Li, Shao Shikuan, Wan Qili, and He Hongqian? How arrogant! Everyone was stunned. They could not believe what they had just heard. That's right. If they dare to stand against me, I will trample on them. Jiang Tian said disdainfully. Superman Li, Shao Shikuan, Wan Qili, and He Hongqian are nothing to me. They have to bow to me like a disciple. Arrogant. This is insane. Everyone was shocked by Jiang Tian's words. Arrogant? I'm really modest. Jiang Tian cracked a smile and said. I don't know if I should say this. Everyone here is trash in my eyes. Very well. Since there is no one more powerful than you, I will trample on you one by one. Jiang Tian pointed at Xiang Qiangsheng and sneered. Xiang Qiangsheng, I have asked someone to tell you that you have 3 days to get out of Hong Kong. Didn't you hear me? Jiang Tian, how dare you? You have no idea what is good for you. Xiang Qiangsheng straightened his back and said arrogantly. It was a simple action, but it was enough to make him exude a murderous aura. This man, who was already over 60 years old, had a straight back like a peerless mountain peak, as if he could support the heavens and earth. Chapter 726. Xiang Qiangsheng put his hands in his pockets and looked at Jiang Tian with a cold gaze. You want me to get out of Hong Kong? Who do you think you are? Xiang Qiangsheng questioned Jiang Tian with disdain in his eyes. Suddenly, a series of footsteps came from the entrance of the hall. The chief of the security bureau. And the chief of police, Fang Gui. Who is that? A man wearing a long green robe and cloth shoes walked over with a majestic gait. He had an outstanding temperament and a powerful aura. However, what happened next was completely unexpected. The man in the azure gown glared at Xiang Qiangsheng and said, Mr. Jiang, who do you think you are? Am I good enough? Wei Duangong was stunned. Xiang Qiangsheng was also taken aback by the man's words. The old man in the azure gown exuded a domineering aura. He ignored the nobles and celebrities present and strode to the stage where the auction items were displayed. There were many antiques and art pieces that were protected by bulletproof glass. They were all donated by Superman Li's family to raise money for the auction. Inside one of the rectangular glass cases was a colorful ancient sword. The man approached the glass cover, and his slender, fair, and pleasing right hand gently pressed against the glass cover. Everyone was shocked and wondered what the man in the azure gown was going to do. The next moment, the glass case that could withstand a 9mm bullet shattered into tiny particles under the man's gentle touch. Everyone was shocked. However, what happened next was even more shocking. The man in the azure gown picked up the colorful ancient sword and shouted, Good. He turned around and walked towards Xiang Qiangsheng. He swung his arm and swung the sword at Xiang Qiangsheng. He looked like a swordsman who could kill a man in 10 steps. A cold glint flashed across the air. Xiang Qiangsheng's right hand fell to the ground and started to bleed. The sword fell to the ground and the hand was severed. The man in the azure gown's slash was so clean that it sent chills down everyone's spine. The men and women who had sensed the man's arrogant aura were shocked by his cold-blooded and ruthless nature. For a moment, the hall was dead silent. Most of the guests were still in a daze and their hearts were still racing from the image of the man in the azure gown. The atmosphere in the hall was tense. A few women who were not used to the atmosphere and the bloody scene had ugly expressions and were trembling. Many people were also puzzled. Just where did he come from? He dared to cut off Xiang Qiangsheng's hand with a single sword strike. This is China's long-established leader, Yi Zhantian. We are here to assist the Hong Kong police in arresting Xiang Qiangsheng. Fang Gui, the head of the police force, felt that he needed to explain. After all, Hong Kong was a lawful society. Yi Zhantian. He is actually Yi Zhantian. Xiang Qiangsheng is out of luck this time. He has encountered a tough opponent. Hearing these words, the hearts of the many factions that had some understanding of China trembled, and their eyes were filled with horror. This was Yi Zhantian. The long formation dragon head was an important weapon of the country. It was no exaggeration to say that its influence was comparable to that of a general. Fang Gui, I refuse to accept this. What crime have I committed? You didn't convict me, so why did you cut off my hand? Xiang Qiangsheng pinched his broken wrist. He was in so much pain that his face was covered in cold sweat. His hair was messy, and his clothes were stained with blood. He was in a sorry state. Where are the bodyguards? Protect me. Bang! Bang! A few men of sacrifice stepped forward and pulled out their pistols. However, they did not dare to point at Yi Zhantian. They only surrounded Xiang Qiangsheng and acted as a human shield. Call the lawyer over, I want to sue them. Xiang Qiangsheng was like a trapped dog waiting to be slaughtered. He roared ferociously and fought with all his might. He was not stupid, and he was not afraid of what he said. He did not think that he had any evidence that could be used against him. He had never personally ordered the crimes of Yi and society. They were all controlled behind the scenes, and there were many people who took the blame. The police wanted to arrest him, but there was no way. Still not confessing. Bring him in. Fang Gui shouted coldly. Bang! Bang! A few policemen rushed in and brought in a middle-aged man with handcuffs and shackles. He pointed at Xiang Qiangsheng and said loudly, Xiang Qiangsheng once gave me a large amount of financial support. I was ordered by him. In addition, he also ordered the members of Yi and society to commit 3 murders and 5 cases of intentional assault to disrupt the market order. At this time, Zhen Shuai opened his mouth and said mockingly, Xiang Qiangsheng, don't you have 80,000 loyal soldiers? Ha, aren't you arrogant? Continue to be arrogant. I'd like to see how you can still be arrogant. Every time Zhen Shuai spoke, Xiang Qiangsheng's face turned paler. After he finished speaking, Xiang Qiangsheng's face was paler than a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. Follow me and kill our way out. Each of you will be rewarded with $10 million. Suddenly, Xiang Qiangsheng grabbed a pistol from one of his subordinates. He roared and shot at Yi Zhantian while rushing toward the door. Go to hell. Yi Zhantian waved his hand, and the sword flew up. Swish! Bam! Xiang Qiangsheng's head flew out, and blood gushed out of his neck. The headless body plunged into Xu Min's arms, and she was so scared that she screamed and trembled. She sat on the ground with feces and urine all over her body. The shiny marble floor was covered with blood, and it was a shocking sight. The bloody scene made the whole place silent. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. Wei Duangong and Yang Shoucheng were frightened and uneasy. They subconsciously wanted to escape. They knew that once the long formation was deployed, it would be the time to draw their swords. Yi and society would fall. And the next one would be them. But when they looked at the door, they were dumbfounded. Dozens of armed soldiers were already guarding the place to the death. They had mobilized the army. Who could defeat them? At this time, there was a dead silence. Yang Shoucheng's phone suddenly rang. He took out his Weidu phone and answered a few words. The phone slipped to the ground. It was Bai Jifan's report. Tens of thousands of members of several gangs were swept up and suppressed by the police. The backbone was arrested, and none of them escaped. The key was the cooperation of the Big Circle Gang and Fu Qing Gang. The number of people mobilized was 60,000. This was equivalent to doubling the police force in Hong Kong. This made the Hong Kong police, who had always been helpless against the gangs, like a tiger that had grown wings. The operation was as smooth as chopping vegetables. Fu Qing Gang, the Big Circle. It was the Big Circle. At this moment, he suddenly understood why Yang Jianming was sent back. With the help of the Big Circle Gang, even if Yang Jianming was hiding in a rat hole in the United States, he would be dug out. However, there was one thing that he did not understand. The Big Circle Gang had only committed a few robberies in Hong Kong in the 1990s and disappeared without a trace. They had not interfered with the gangs in Hong Kong. Why would they help the Hong Kong police suppress them? His expression changed drastically, and he trembled. He looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief and said, "You. What's your relationship with the Big Circle Gang?" Jiang Tian did not even look at him. He did not have the right to talk to him. He would be a wronged ghost. He's the boss of Liancheng, Yang Shoucheng. It's your turn now. Fang Gui's gaze was as sharp as a knife. In an instant, he straightened his body and felt proud. For many years, he had wanted to take care of Wei Duangong, Xiang Qiangsheng, and Yang Shoucheng. However, he could not make up his mind. Most importantly, he did not have the ability to do so. However, many people in Hong Kong who did not know the truth thought that he was muddle-headed and incompetent, and some thought that he was in cahoots with the bosses. He had been criticized by the people in Hong Kong for a few years. Fang Gui was proud and satisfied that he was able to accomplish this before he retired. He could die in peace. Fang Gui, you've been wanting to arrest me for a long time. Yang Shoucheng was trembling, but he forced himself to stay strong. He said angrily, "Fang Gui, you and the Independent Commission Against Corruption have arrested me a few times. But every time you arrested me, you let me go obediently." The more he spoke, the more confident he became. He put his hands in his pockets and said proudly, "I'm a legal businessman. I abide by the law. Every penny I earn is clean and clean. So, don't waste your time. Don't waste the police force. Boss Yang, I'm more aware of whether your money is clean or not." Suddenly, a mocking snort was heard. Fang Zhanbua, who was in a decent suit, walked over and said proudly, "I've already accused you as a tainted witness. You opened casinos, brothels, sold firearms and drugs, laundered money, engaged in organized crime, and even bribed the police. I'm afraid that you will be imprisoned for life." Chapter 727. It's you. How dare you betray me? Yang Shoucheng's face turned pale. He broke out in a cold sweat and trembled. "I was forced to do it. It was you who pointed a gun at my head and ordered me to do the accounts. We were never on the same side. How can I betray you?" Fang Zhanbua said innocently. You. Shameless. Yang Shoucheng screamed in horror. In the next moment, this senior elder was so scared that his knees went soft, and he collapsed to the ground, urinating and defecating. He had a stroke. "Take him away." Fang Gui waved his hand coldly. Fang Minxia came forward with a few police officers and took Yang Shoucheng away. "Fang Gui, we have had tea together more than once. You don't want to arrest me, do you?" Only Wei Duangong remained calm and composed as he chuckled in a low voice. "Have tea with you? That's to use your power to suppress Yayan society and Liancheng. What right do you have to make me drink tea with you?" Fang Gui sneered and his eyes were sharp. Finally, it was time to draw his sword. He was exhilarated. "Fang Gui, I am a British citizen. You don't have the authority. If you arrest me, it will cause an international dispute." Wei Duangong's face changed slightly. He quickly calmed down, put his hands in his pockets, and laughed proudly. "Sorry, I arrest you on behalf of the British police and hand you over to the Hong Kong police immediately." At this time, a soft and graceful voice came. A golden-haired, blue-eyed woman in an elegant robe strolled in like a goddess. Behind her were a few British people. Hera of the Pantheon. Wei Duangong was stunned. He couldn't believe it. He was so scared that his face turned pale and he kept stepping back. Until he was handcuffed by the British people. He reacted and shouted angrily, "Hera, our number gang has paid tribute to you more than once. Hundreds of millions of euros. And I have the support of the British royal family. We are friends. We are comrades. Jiang, who the hell are you? You can mobilize the Pantheon. Tell me, let me die with a clear understanding." Bang! A British police officer unceremoniously punched him in the stomach and shut him up. At the same time, he reprimanded him in a low voice, "What are you doing? Shut up. Even the British royal family can't save you. The person you offended is Master Kong, the famous Jiang Ligua. He's the head of state of Sidoni." Only then did Wei Duangong understand. His face instantly turned deathly pale, and he stared at Jiang Tian with wide eyes, not daring to believe it. "Yes, you have no idea who you have offended." Hera smiled disdainfully and shook her head lightly. "Mr. Jiang is not someone you can afford to offend." Wei Duangong immediately regretted it. It was too late for him to beg for mercy. He had already been dragged out. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and fear. They were like quails trembling in the face of a tsunami. Wei Duangong, Yang Shoucheng, and Xiang Qiangsheng were arrested, one suffered a stroke, and one died. The three major Hong Kong gangs had been wiped out by the Hong Kong police within the past hour. A total of over 1,000 members of the society were arrested, and dozens of criminals who resisted stubbornly were shot dead. All the police stations, prisons, and correctional facilities in Hong Kong were filled with people. It wasn't just the convention center that was shaken. Hong Kong was shocked. Tremor. The whole world was shaken. All the major media outlets were scrambling to break the news and report the news at great length. The spokesman of the Hong Kong police and the mainland police held a press conference to announce the crimes committed by the three gangs and the results of the operation. The news was then spread to the ears of the rich and powerful in the convention center. The mafia that dominated the middle and lower social classes in Hong Kong would become history after tonight, and it would come to an end forever. When the rich and powerful people from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan understood this point, they instantly felt a chill in their hearts. Their hearts were filled with sorrow, as if they were in the same boat. And the one who did this was none other than this ordinary-looking young man in front of them. He had crushed the three major gangs in Hong Kong with one stomp. Who the hell was he? What kind of person could have such terrifying power? A member of the Red Wall? The illegitimate son of some big shot? For a moment, this thought appeared in many people's minds. They looked at Jiang Tian with a puzzled expression. "Master, I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't expect you to suffer so much in this small Hong Kong." Yi Zhantian walked up to Jiang Tian and bowed respectfully. "Don't worry about it. You have done a good deed by arresting them. Thank you for your hard work." Jiang Tian waved his hand and said. Wu Zhirua was completely dumbfounded by what she saw. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. What? He is Yi Zhantian's master. How is this possible? Yi Zhantian rose to his feet and scanned the crowd with a smile. Since everyone is here, let me tell you. Master Kong is the #1 martial arts master. He is also my master. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Zhirua let out an ah sound. Her mouth was wide open in disbelief. She knew Jiang Tian too well. He was a good-for-nothing who knew nothing. How could he become the famous Master Kong, Yi Zhantian's master? But she had to believe what she saw in front of her. When Yi Zhantian came to the convention center, he was accompanied by the head of the security department. If Yi Zhantian was Jiang Tian's disciple, then how high was Jiang Tian's status? He might even be able to talk to the head of state. When she thought of this, a strong sense of regret surged in her heart and rushed to the top of her head, causing her eyes to ache and redden. Wu Chuchu's eyes were wide open. Feng Minxia murmured with a look of fascination and adoration, so he actually has such a great background. So powerful. Su Zixuan stood behind Jiang Tian like a fox pretending to be a tiger. She gave Xiao Yunhao a disdainful look. Kid, let's see if you dare to harass me again. Come back when you are 10% as powerful as Master Kong. Luo Ziho trembled in fear. His limbs twitched and he almost peed in his pants. I'm doomed. I'm doomed. He is Yi Zhantian's master. Humph. So what if he is a martial arts master? Among the crowd, only Wan Chuha snorted. He is not a rich family after all. He can't be compared to my Wan family. He dared to say that because he had a good father who had the backing of the United Bamboo Gang. The United Bamboo Gang was in Taiwan. The Long Formation could not reach there. Of course he was not afraid. But who would dare to offend the master of the Long Formation number 1 Yi Zhantian? Haven't you seen what happened to the 3 big leaders? No wonder Su Zixuan was so friendly to him. He is a martial arts master. Xiao Yunhao's face was ugly. But he was still stubborn. So what if he is a martial arts master? My family also has a few martial arts experts as bodyguards and consecrators. Their annual income is only 10 million. Hearing this, Wu Zhirua felt better. She clenched her fists. Her dim eyes once again lit up with flames. The flames of hope, the flames of fighting. So what if he knows martial arts? He has no money. So what if I miss out on him? Maybe in the future I will marry a rich young master with a net worth of billions. She clenched her fists even tighter. She made up her mind. If that day comes, she will pay him 10 million a year to be her bodyguard. She was too far away from the martial arts world. She did not know the net worth of Jiang Tian and Yi Zhantian. Kai Xiaofei also seemed to have found some support. He quickly added, yeah, he said he will trample Hong Kong. How could he do it? To us, who are in the legal business, he can't do anything. At this time, Jiang Tian took out his phone and glanced at it. Then, he glanced at everyone and said, Kai Xiaofei, Xiao Yunhao, Wan Chuha, do you know why I ignored you? That's because your parents will punish you. That is why I am too lazy to do anything. What did you say? Kai Xiaofei was furious. My uncle is He Hongchen. You want to trample on me? Come on. Come on. Wan Chuha smiled disdainfully. I am the only son of the Wan family. No matter how strong you are, my dad will not beat me just to be friends with you. I didn't do anything to your friend. Xiao Yunhao shook his head and chuckled. He was a capable man who had made the Xiao family prosper. His father, Xiao Shikuan, trusted him and loved him to the core. Why would he punish him just because of some disrespectful words? Superman Li is coming down. Someone suddenly exclaimed. Everyone looked up and saw Superman Li, He Hongchen, Wan Qili, Xiao Shikuan, and other tycoons coming down from the Bauhinia Hall on the 3rd floor, led by the director of the Joint Office of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China. Everyone clapped their hands in awe and reverence, and made way for them to pass. These people were the real tycoons of Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Every single one of them was rich enough to rival a country, and had the power to overturn the imperial court. Uncle, you are finally here. A few days ago, it was this group of mainlanders who beat me up. They were very fierce. Kai Xiaofei was like a loyal dog that had just seen its master. He ran to He Hongchen and pointed at Jiang Tian. Get your men to arrest him. Help me vent my anger. This is so annoying. Smack. He Hongchen did not stop. He turned around and slapped Kai Xiaofei to the ground. He was already in his 80s, but he could still hit Kai Xiaofei so hard. He then waved his hand at the bodyguard and said, drag him out and break his legs. Oh right, make sure his bones are crushed. Then, ignoring everyone's shocked gazes and Kai Xiaofei's begging for mercy, he quickly walked up to Jiang Tian, knelt down with a thud, and kowtowed 3 times and 9 times. I didn't know that Master Kong would be here in person. Please punish this old man for being late to welcome you. That little bastard Kai has offended you. I will find a way to make him disappear from this world after this. Everyone was dumbfounded and felt that their brains were not enough to comprehend the situation. Mr. Gambling King, you are exaggerating. Even if he is a martial arts expert, you don't have to kneel down like this. You don't have to kill your own nephew. Furthermore, looking at how you're trembling, it seems like you're scared out of your wits. You're an important person who can be received. But the most shocking thing was yet to come. Chapter 728. The next second, Superman Lee also knelt on the floor and said respectfully, I am Superman Lee from a wealthy family in Hong Kong. Greetings, God Jiang. I wish you a long life. After that, Wan Qili also knelt on the floor, trembling. Wan Qili greets Master Kong. The old man has rebuilt the 9-story pagoda. The old man hopes that you can accept him as your disciple. Greetings, Immortal Jiang. Including Xiao Shikuan, the rest of the tycoons and celebrities who came from the Chinese Red Bud Hall. They also scrambled to kneel down towards Jiang Tian. Their eyes were filled with reverence as if they had seen a god. Greetings, Master Kong. I am Su Mazhai. In the end, even the guardian of Hong Kong, Su Mazhai, knelt before Jiang Tian. Everyone was dumbfounded. They felt as if their souls were about to leave their bodies. Everyone's body was stiff and motionless, as if they were clay sculptures. It was a shocking scene. They had thought that these bigwigs were here to help the 3 major societies and to suppress Jiang Tian. After all, Superman Lee had invited the 3 major societies to come. It was obvious that he was on Wei Duangong's side. Many of them thought that Jiang Tian would not be able to handle it. After all, these bigwigs were too powerful and had too much power. But they did not expect this to happen. This Chinese kid was so overbearing that even the tycoons from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan had to bow down to him. At this time, some of the shrewd rich and famous people had a thoughtful look on their faces as they came to a realization. Great! What a good plan! Obviously, this Mr. Jiang had purposely asked Superman Lee to invite Wei Duangong and the rest of the tycoons to come and kill them all. Superman Lee, you are too cunning. At the same time, some people finally realized what was going on. Jiang Tian had been humiliating Li Zhikai since the beginning, but Li Zhikai didn't stop him. Li Zhikai was obviously watching these tycoons die to get rid of the dissidents. Li Zhikai, you are as cunning as your father. Oh my god. Who is he? Don't tell me he is the 3rd generation of the Chinese Red Army. Are you stupid? Even the leader of the country would not make Superman Lee and the rest kneel before him. Maybe he is the illegitimate son of the US President or the British Prime Minister. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so respectful. How is that possible? He's clearly yellow. When did yellow people become the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom? Everyone started whispering to each other. The scene before their eyes was too shocking. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, as if it was a joke. Everyone, please rise. Jiang Tian raised his hands and smiled faintly. You are all legitimate businessmen. You have made contributions to the country and the nation by making the local economy prosper and create jobs so that the people can live and work in peace. As for your children, it's just a small conflict with me. If I wanted to kill them, I wouldn't have waited until now. Only then did everyone dare to stand up and secretly let out a sigh of relief. These words meant that no one would die. Meanwhile, Yi Zhantian, the director of the Central Liaison Office, Fang Gui and other politicians were impressed by Jiang Tian. Master Kong dealt with matters in an orderly manner. He was disciplined and had a good grasp of the big picture. Only such a person could control a country. A man who does not know but is not enraged, is he not a gentleman? Grandmaster Jiang is broad-minded and truly has the demeanor of a gentleman. Supermanly was full of admiration for Feng Yu. Suddenly, Xiao Shikuan waved at Xiao Yunhao. Immortal Jiang, this is my son, Xiao Yunhao. He will work for you from now on. What? Work for him? Xiao Yunhao could not believe what he was hearing. Then, Xiao Shikuan looked around and sighed. There is something that the old man did wrong. Master Kong is the developer of Sidoni's Xingyuan village for immortals. These villas can prolong people's lives. Each of them is worth over $1 billion USD. There are more than 1,000 of them. These projects conflict with the Xiao family's high-end real estate projects. Sigh. Under the pressure of the village for immortals, we did not manage to sell any of them. I'm afraid that the Xiao family's cash flow will only last for another month. He shook his head in shame. I was muddle-headed and desperate. I instructed the Hong Kong media to ban the Immortal Healing Village and even sent a public relations team to slander the Immortal Healing Village in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. I seriously damaged the reputation of the Medicine King Group and the Immortal Healing Village. He bowed to Jiang Tian and said, however, Master Kong did not forgive me. However, Grandmaster Jiang is a magnanimous man. Not only did he let me off, he even asked Mr. Chen Jinming and Ms. Jiang Lin to talk to me and help me. Now, Mr. Jiang has invested in Xiao Enterprise with his technology and owns 51% of the shares. From now on, Xiao Enterprise will be renamed as the Village for Immortals. I was talking to Mr. Chen Jinming and Ms. Jiang Lin upstairs just now. What? What kind of technology is worth billions of HKD? I think Mr. Xiao was forced to do this. Some of them could not believe it and started to whisper among themselves. He has become the biggest shareholder of the Xiao family. Wu Chu Chu could not believe her eyes. I'm going to be screwed. I'm doomed. Sun Jiaro's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Only Wu Jirua's face was as pale as a sheet. She did not say a word, but her body was shaking uncontrollably. So, he is really something. He could defeat Xiang Chang, beat Wei Duangong, and make Superman Li kowtow to him. So, he really does own thousands of villas and each one of them is worth billions of USD. So, Xiao Shikuan's family is really having a hard time selling their properties. He has been helping me. So, he was not bluffing or lying. I was blind to not see his true colors. That's why I missed him. Her heart was filled with mixed feelings. In the end, it turned into a strong sense of regret. The woman's nose turned sour, and she could no longer control herself. Sparkling and translucent tears gushed out of her eyes. Of course, she was not referring to the relationship between a man and a woman. After all, Jiang Tian was already married and had no intention of taking in a concubine. She had missed him. If she treated Jiang Tian as a friend, if she became Jiang Tian's female companion tonight, or even if she was less arrogant and disdainful, but more respectful and friendly, or even if she was not hostile to Jiang Tian, she would be able to obtain immeasurable benefits. But don't think that Mr. Jiang has taken advantage of me. Xiao Shikuan smiled when he heard everyone's discussion. In fact, after Immortal Jiang, no, even after his disciples' renovation, those villas of mine will become blessed paradises. Their value will double, triple, quadruple, that's right. Superman Li smiled enviously. Brother Xiao, you have profited from your misfortune. You have become friends with Mr. Jiang. He also wanted to work with Jiang Tian, but his projects were just ordinary commercial real estate and condominium projects. Xiao Shikuan's villas were high-end and could work with Jiang Tian's array formation. Come, come, come. Yunhao, why aren't you greeting Immortal Jiang? It's your fortune to be able to work for Mr. Jiang. I know him. Jiang Tian did not comment. Seeing Jiang Tian's unhappy face, Xiao Shikuan hurriedly asked, did Yunhao offend Master Kong? Xiao Yunhao's face flushed red. He was extremely embarrassed. Originally, he wanted to challenge Jiang Tian, but now, he had become Jiang Tian's employee. Humiliation, shock, regret, frustration, his expression changed a few times before it turned into despair. He knelt on the ground and said in a trembling voice, "Master Kong, I know I was wrong." He could not bear the pressure that Jiang Tian was exuding. It possessed the power to destroy the heavens and the earth, to topple mountains and overturn seas. "My dad, Wan Qili, is upstairs. After his meeting, he will come and kill you all." At this time, Zhen Shuai added insult to injury, imitating Wan Chuha's earlier clamor and mockingly mocking him. "Wan Chuha, aren't you arrogant? Don't kneel if you have the guts. Don't make me kneel. Aren't you very arrogant? Show me how arrogant you can be." Wan Chuha's face flushed red, as if he had been slapped a few times. His father had kowtowed to Jiang Tian. What right did he have to challenge Jiang Tian? Wan Qili bowed deeply to Zhen Shuai and said with a smile, "Young master, I have offended you." "Young master Zhen, my son has offended you just now." "I've already contacted Miss Lingling, and she'll be accompanying you tonight." Zhen Shuai nodded, then looked at Wan Chuha and said, Wan Chuha, your dad is amazing. Wan Chuha, your daddy is so awesome. He actually knows how to be a pimp. I admire you." But Chuha seems to like that female star a lot. He won't have a problem with that, right? Wan Qili was an experienced man. He could keep his composure, or rather, he was thick-skinned enough. Young Master Zhen has a good sense of humor. It is an old man's honor to be a pimp for young Master Zhen. But Wan Chuha was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Although he had been suppressing his anger, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He stomped his feet and gritted his teeth. "Dad, why are you doing this? Aren't you ashamed? Who do they think they are? Do they deserve you to be so humble? So what if they have money? So what if they have power in China? So what if they have Sidoni's immortal healing village? We are in Taiwan. His power and connections in China are useless. We don't have real estate." Actually, from Wan Chuha's point of view, what he said wasn't wrong. He was in Taiwan and was in a gang. No matter how powerful your background was, he could just ignore you. He had real estate and medicine, but his family wasn't in the real estate or medicine business. What could he do to him? Don't be rude. Quickly kneel and apologize to Mr. Jiang and young Master Zhen. Wan Qili wanted to cover his mouth. His heart couldn't take it anymore. But Wan Chuha was still angry. How could he hold it in? Why should I apologize? Why should I kneel and apologize? What do they have? They know martial arts. My Wan family has tens of thousands of brothers in the United Bamboo Gang. We can't deal with them. Pa! Without saying a word, Wan Qili pulled out a pistol from one of his subordinates and shot him in the leg. He shouted sternly, "Tens of thousands of brothers. They are nothing." Master Kong had once defeated 28,000 mixed army and air brigades in Japan. He had once suppressed 300,000 soldiers in France. He is a living immortal. He even killed Gong Yao of the 9-story pagoda. How many heads do you have? Enough for immortal Jiang to kill. Yamaguchi Gumi, Dahuan, and fucking gang are all Master Kang's disciples. Mitsui Group, Star Moon Group, and even America's California Group all listen to Master Kang's orders. You still dare to be arrogant in front of him? You blind dog, are you trying to get me killed? Chapter 729. Hiss. He is the legendary god Sidoni. The one who can suppress a country all by himself. Yeah. I've seen some news about him on the internet, but it was deleted by River Crab God. Oh my god. No wonder he is so confident. So, he's actually a real god. He defeated the French army alone, and he can fight tanks and fighter jets. If he is not a god, then what is he? Oh my god. The Yamaguchi group, the fucking gang, the Mitsui group, the Californian group. Which one of them isn't an enemy? Sigh. He is too kind. He is trying to maintain the legal environment in Hong Kong. Otherwise, he would have killed Xiang Qiangsheng and the rest of them. For a time, everyone was dumbstruck once more, and they looked at Jiang Tian with fear and disbelief. What? Even old immortal Gong was killed by him. He is so powerful. At this moment, Wan Chuha couldn't take it anymore, and his face turned pale from fright as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. Master Kong, Lord Zhen, I know I was wrong. Please spare my life. Wan Chuha begged in a hoarse voice. Master Kong, please calm down. Look, he knows he was wrong. I will break his limbs as punishment when I get back. At this time, Wan Qili also looked at Jiang Tian pleadingly. However, Jiang Tian did not say a word. He sipped his tea expressionlessly and did not even look at him. Wan Qili's heart skipped a beat, and his heart fell into the abyss. He knew that his son's life was in danger. His straight back bent, and his white hair trembled. It was as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Bang! He threw a pistol in front of Wan Chuha, took a deep breath and said in a trembling voice, Chuha, kill yourself for the sake of your family. Otherwise, the entire family will suffer. Remember, don't fight for a woman in your next life. It's not worth it. A woman who deserves your love won't let you compete with others, fight with others, and take risks. Everyone was silent. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They only felt a chill run down their spines and straight to the top of their heads. Jiang Tian didn't say a word, and the leader of the United Bamboo Gang had to kill his own son to quench his anger. Just how powerful was this? What was power? Power depends on how much you can control and influence others. The power that Jiang Tian displayed at this moment was like that of an ancient emperor. He killed people without saying a word, which caused people's hearts to palpitate. This was 10 times, no, 100 times more terrifying than personally killing someone. A trace of despair and sorrow appeared on Wan Chua's face. He picked up the pistol and pressed it against his forehead. Dad, I don't blame you. It's all my fault. I'm used to being arrogant and despotic. It's all my fault for being blind. Tears welled up in Wan Chua's eyes as his heart was filled with regret. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly aimed his pistol at Luo Ziho and fired a shot. And you bitch, go and fan the flames. I only said one sentence. Luo Ziho couldn't believe it. Blood gushed out from his chest. He fell to the ground and died in the blink of an eye. See, bad guys always die because they talk too much. Zhen Shuai slapped his thigh and laughed. The police officers hadn't reacted yet. Wan Chuha aimed a shot at his forehead and he fell to the ground, dead. The whole place was dead silent. No one dared to say a word. Wu Chu Chu was so scared that her face had turned pale. She was peeing like the Yellow River. Ah, I came here to have a drink with everyone. In the silence, Jiang Tian stood up and stepped over the pool of blood. He picked up a glass of wine and smiled. I didn't expect to spoil everyone's mood. I'm really sorry. I wish everyone a happy Lantern Festival in advance. Congratulations to Master Kong for a happy Lantern Festival. Congratulations to Master Kong for making progress every day. May he live for 10,000 years and have a deep Dharma power. Everyone raised their glasses and drank in a hurry. They were afraid that they would be scolded by Jiang Tian if they were late. After drinking this glass of wine, Jiang Tian walked towards the banquet hall with a few of his attendants. Yi Zhantian, Hera, the director of the joint office, Supermanly, and other high-ranking officials and rich people crowded around to send him off. The surrounding crowd parted like a tide, opening up a path for him. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian with a complicated gaze. There was fear, shock, and doubt, but no one dared to show the slightest disrespect. Wu Zhirua wanted to say something but stopped. She wanted to follow Jiang Tian, but after thinking about it, she stopped in her tracks with a pale face. Sigh, some relationships are missed. There's no medicine for regret in the world. How can you start over? Su Zixuan noticed her and raised her glass. A trace of mockery flashed in her eyes. Only Xu Min was shameless to a whole new level. She ran to catch up with Zhen Shuai and whispered. Young Master Zhen, actually I found that you're very charming. I like handsome guys from the mainland the most. The shyness on her face had reached an unprofessional level. It was extremely seductive and charming. I wonder if I'll have a chance to have a long talk with you at the hotel tonight. Huh? Lingling is already waiting at the hotel. A threesome. Don't you mind? Zhen Shuai whispered embarrassedly. What's there to mind? Humph, I represent Hong Kong's female celebrities to compete with those from Taiwan's female celebrities. Xu Min was already hugging Zhen Shuai's arm, leaning close to his ear and whispering into his ear. Then remember to bring your famous work, Jade Girl Heart Sutra. I loved it when I was young. Zhen Shuai smiled and whispered. Young Master Zhen, you're so bad. But don't worry, I will. Xu Min punched his chest with her small fists. She then took Zhen Shuai's business card and left. Damn, she's already so old. Look at those crow's feet. They can pinch a person to death. How can you still do that? Cheng Yi glanced at Zhen Shuai. You're a beast in human clothing. Jiang Chao despised. What do you guys know? My childhood dream. My childhood dream has already come true. What about you guys? Zhen Shuai had a look of disdain on his face that said, You don't understand my taste. Peninsula Hotel, Jiang Tian's room. Disciple Yi Zhantian greets master. Yi Zhantian hurried to Jiang Tian. He lifted the hem of his long robe and kowtowed to Jiang Tian. Brother Zhantian, I'm just giving you a few pointers. Don't be so courteous. Jiang Tian smiled and helped him up. Hera greets Master Kong. Hera and Su Maozhai also bowed respectfully. Yi Zhantian, Su Maozhai and Hera sat down. Jiang Tian went straight to the point. Zhantian, why did you come to see me? Master, after your battle in Wudang, Huaxia's martial arts community has been in turmoil. Several grandmasters have died. Yi Zhantian said with a serious face. Grandmasters don't die so easily. Jiang Tian was surprised. Including the Dharma Fist Master Wei Hai, Tai Chi Sword Master Chen Jiuling, and Cloud Rubbing Hand Hong Tian. Yi Zhantian said. In addition, several immortal state warriors have died in the Brahmin of India, Myanmar, and Thailand. Roughly speaking, there are 10 transcendent grandmasters, 3 semi-immortal state warriors, and 1 immortal state warrior. He is the Brahmin Master Ji Wu. As he spoke, he handed over a map with the time, place, and dead overlords marked on it. Master Ji Wu. I know him. He was a Brahmin Master Ji Wu a few decades ago. He was of the same generation as your father. Su Maozhai exclaimed. Yes, that's him. Yi Zhantian said. Master Kong may not have heard of him, but Master Qinglian, you must remember him. He is Master Ji Wu's disciple. I've heard of these people in Huaxia. They are the kind of people who don't care about Jianghu. Jiang Tian looked at the map and asked curiously. These people have never participated in the martial arts disputes in recent years and have no connection with the Sky Alliance. Who did they offend? Master Kong, more than 30 members of the Palace of Gods have been killed in Europe. Even the demon hunter Van Helsing was killed. Before Yi Zhantian could answer, Hera frowned and interrupted with a worried look. Van Helsing, I've heard of him. He was on the power rankings 100 years ago. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. No wonder Hera was so cooperative. It seemed that the Palace of Gods couldn't handle the demons in Europe and needed his help to suppress them. It's all because he didn't leave any clues. Yi Zhantian said in a low voice, they were all annihilated. Not even a chicken or a dog was spared. Moreover, their deaths were very strange. How so? Jiang Tian said lightly. Master Kong, please take a look. Chao Jianjia, who had come with Yi Zhantian, stepped forward and took out a military-grade computer. She clicked on a video and said, this is the surveillance footage of the Bodhidharma Fist Master Wei Hai's house on the night of the incident. No one appeared from the beginning to the end, but the Wei family members fell one by one. It's the same for the other surveillance footage. There's no sign of fighting. It's as if they suddenly died of natural causes. Stop. Jiang Tian's face darkened after a glance. Chao Jianjia immediately pressed the mouse and stopped the video. Then, she zoomed in. Do you see it? Jiang Tian said lightly, there's a black demonic aura here. It should be the one I saw in the ancient martial arts sect. He's using the death curse technique, which is one of the most vicious demonic arts. Death curse spell. Is it more powerful than your heart's blooming joy? Yi Zhantian couldn't believe it. You can say that. Jiang Tian's face became serious for the first time. This spell is a type of spiritual attack that can only be performed by the demon body of purgatory. Once the spiritual power is activated, the target's divine soul will be destroyed and they will die an unnatural death. Isn't that similar to the Death Note? That's so scary. Chao Jianjia's face turned pale. What's the Death Note? A Dharma artifact? Jiang Tian rarely paid attention to such new things. It's not a Dharma artifact. It's fictional, Chao Jianjia explained with a blushing face. Ha, you're reading Japanese cartoons? Jiang Tian said with a half-smile after hearing that. Chao Jianjia was embarrassed. Jiang Tian nodded. But Jianjia's analogy is very accurate. To be exact, the death curse technique is more powerful than the Death Note. There's no need to write anything. Master, do you have any idea how to capture or restrain this person? Yi Zhantian asked. Don't worry. Jiang Tian tapped his finger on the armrest and said, it's very likely that this person is coming for me. If I'm not mistaken, he should be the young master of the Nie family, Nie Mingyuan. Chapter 730. The Nie family of the Cherry Blossom Society. Yi Zhantian also had a certain understanding of this family. He slapped his thigh and said, when you were in seclusion at the ancient martial arts sect, I went there to investigate. I heard that Nie Shuaman had brought him to Wu Dang as well. But I found that he had disappeared. Did he really turn into a demon? Isn't he just an ordinary person? How did he become so powerful? Chao Jianjia was puzzled. He is indeed an ordinary person. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness as he said softly, the demonic body of purgatory is an extremely rare hidden body constitution. This kind of physique would not be awakened without experiencing a great tribulation, great tempering, and great pain. He looks no different from an ordinary person. Even I can't tell. Jiang Tian sighed. I didn't do a clean job of wiping out the Nie family. Not only did I fail to kill him, but I also awakened his potential. Now, I can see that he was the one who disguised himself as Tang Linglong and killed several people in Wudang. He probably thought that he was still weaker than me, so he fled. Master, what do you think his cultivation is now? Yi Zhantian asked nervously. The demonic body of purgatory can devour souls and soul energy. It can also devour blood essence. It can turn everything of others into its own power. Jiang Tian said slowly. He really is a demon. Su Maozhai's face paled. Jiang Tian sighed. It can be said that the cultivation speed of the demonic body of purgatory is one of the fastest in the universe. It may be even faster than Qing'er's immortal body and my divine body of Gengjin. Master, what did you say? Faster than your cultivation speed? Isn't that troublesome? Everyone's face paled as they exclaimed. Don't worry. Jiang Tian waved his hand, sipped his tea and said calmly, I have my ways to deal with him. Yi Zhantian said, but will he do anything to your family? Your father is still in Jinling, he has been to Jinling. First Jinling, then Hong Kong, then Southeast Asia, and finally Europe. Jiang Tian drew a curved line on the map and said, that's right. But the jade marrow talisman I gave my father can restrain him. He might not be able to touch it, or he might not be willing to touch it. That's why he went to Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, and Europe to improve his cultivation. This person's hatred towards me is monstrous, and he's extremely patient. I'm guessing that he won't expose himself before he reaches the level where he can fight me. Why do you think so, Master? Yi Zhantian asked in surprise. He only kills those who have nothing to do with me. Jiang Tian said slowly, in Huaxia, he did not touch the Long Formation, nor did he touch my old friends. In Southeast Asia, they did not encounter the Singapore Chinese Club. It's clear that he doesn't want me to know about his existence. It should be like what Master said. There's no real feeling. Zhen Shuai's face was dejected. Then, he wailed. I really want to fall in love. I really want a real relationship. Sigh, this might be one of the few times I'll see them before I leave Earth. Some people just break up after a while. Looking at them laughing bitterly, Jiang Tian's lips curled into a smile. He took a sip of white wine and sighed in his heart. There was a difference between people. Jiang Tian was now the most powerful person in the world. He had never lost a battle and was known as the earth deity Jiang. He controlled Sidoni and had trillions of wealth. He hunted down a country and was known as the Jiang Lai nation. Zhen Shuai, Tan Guangxiu, Cheng Yi, and the others were considered the elites of the younger generation, but the gap between them and Jiang Tian was getting bigger and bigger. There was no such thing as an eternal banquet. On the night of the wedding, Jiang Tian said goodbye to Chen Jinming and the other childhood friends and planned to rush to Hong Kong International Airport. He wanted to go to Russia and then to the northern islands to find the place where the nine-sword deity had fallen, the sword tomb. Zhen Shuai, there must be a limit to your sensual pleasures. Before they parted, Jiang Tian patted Zhen Shuai's shoulder and said earnestly, find a good girl and marry a good girl. Hurry up and find a good girl to marry. It's good for your health and your career. Brother Tian, I understand. Zhen Shuai's face gradually became serious and said seriously, my family had been bullied by Nie Mingyuan and the other tycoons in Jin City. I've been holding back my anger for a long time. He was touched. If he wasn't a good friend, he wouldn't have said that to you. He said seriously, I've finally vented my anger after coming to Hong Kong. It's still the best to bully people with you. But it's nothing. I'll focus on my business from now on. I'll find a good girl to marry and have kids with. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. He could understand Zhen Shuai's attitude. I think Yuan Kursen is a good girl. Do you think I have a chance with her? Suddenly, Zhen Shuai glanced at Yuan Kursen who was chatting with Jiang Lin in the distance and winked at her. Yuan Kursen came back to Hong Kong to see Jiang Tian after she finished her tour with the veterans. She is a kind and caring girl. If you can get her, it will be your blessing. Jiang Tian patted his shoulder and said softly, she doesn't care about money. She doesn't care about money. You have to show your sincerity. But don't let her know what you did. Otherwise, she won't be interested in you. I understand. As long as I have a chance with her, I will turn over a new leaf. Zhen Shuai was overjoyed. After that, Jiang Tian turned down everyone's offer to send him off. He went to the parking lot and got into a Mercedes-Benz. Su Zixuan was driving while Fang Minxia sat in the passenger seat. Master Kang, here is your ID card, passport, and ticket. Fang Minxia handed over a folder with both hands. She was very respectful and her eyes were filled with admiration. Thank you. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Jiang Tian's identity was very sensitive. He was under the surveillance of all the superpowers in the world. If Jiang Tian went to Russia, Russia would be on high alert. Jiang Tian didn't want to provoke this military superpower. Secondly, he didn't want the sword vault to be discovered by more people. So, he had to hide his identity. However, with Fang Gui's help, everything was solved. He immediately got a set of ID card and passport. They didn't speak a word until they arrived at the airport. Jiang Tian was about to go to the departure lounge. Suddenly, Fang Minxia pulled his sleeve and said solemnly, "Mr. Jiang, I want to thank you." "Thank me? What is there to thank me for?" Jiang Tian stopped in his tracks and asked in confusion. Fang Minxia was slightly moved and said, "Did you know? My mother was killed by Xiang Qiangsheng. 5 years ago, when my father was investigating Xiang Qiangsheng group, my mother was hit by a minibus and died in a car accident. My 8-year-old brother was also on the minibus. I once saw my father fly into a rage and cry, but there was nothing he could do. Because he couldn't find any evidence at all. He couldn't find any evidence that pointed to the criminal organization Xiang Qiangsheng group. My father was my idol. After my mother died, this idol collapsed perfectly. All these years, he even played basketball with Wei Duangong. They called each other friends. I think he's useless. He's a coward. I feel that he's afraid. He doesn't dare to declare war on the evil forces. He tolerates and nurtures evil. He helps the evil. He even forgot that his wife was killed by a black organization." A trace of sadness flashed in Fang Minxia's eyes. "But I don't know when I started to feel that these evil forces are invincible." Chapter 731. They have existed for hundreds of years. They have infiltrated the Hong Kong people's daily life, from the film industry to the financial industry, down to the minibuses, taxis, food markets. Everything. The Hong Kong people are used to their existence. The media is used to it. Even the police are used to it. It's as if the existence of these evil forces is a matter of course. But what you did told me that there is no evil force that cannot be defeated. Justice may be late, but it will never be absent. Until now, I finally understood that all these years, my father has never forgotten to avenge my mother. He has also been collecting relevant evidence. From now on, I will be fearless and dare to declare war on the evil forces. Just like my father. So, I want to thank you. I want to thank every ordinary person who dares to fight against the evil forces." At this point, she closed her legs and straightened her body in her police uniform. She raised her right hand to her eyebrows and gave Jiang Tian a standard police salute. Her dainty face was filled with reverence, but her beautiful eyes were filled with sparkling and translucent tears. Good luck. Your father is a good police officer. Sometimes, you need a way to fight." Jiang Tian patted her shoulder, turned around, and walked towards the departure hall. Su Zixuan and Fang Minxia were reluctant to part with him. Fang Minxia craned her neck and looked at Jiang Tian's disappearing figure at the ticket gate. "He's gone." Su Zixuan sighed. "Yeah, he's gone." Fang Minxia nodded. Her eyes were filled with loneliness. Little witch Su Zixuan pursed her lips and smiled bitterly. "Don't look anymore. He's gone. He won't come back no matter how much you look." Sigh. Fang Minxia sighed, retracted her gaze, and looked at the sky outside the glass window. She wondered if Jiang Tian's flight would pass by there. He is a dragon in the sky. We are not from the same world as him. Su Zixuan sighed. We only have a short interaction with him. Yeah. Fang Minxia retracted her gaze and smiled. It's already good to have a short interaction with him. I think I'm very lucky. Me too. Su Zixuan held Fang Minxia's arm and walked out of the airport together. When Jiang Tian set off for Russia. On Mount Amei, the red sun was overflowing, and the clouds and mist were everywhere. Early in the morning, many disciples were cultivating on the training field as usual. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar was heard. Everyone raised their heads in astonishment, only to see a white chain that pierced through heaven and earth gushing out from a large hall, shooting straight into the sky. Amidst the white mist, one could vaguely see that this person had a leopard head and round eyes. His face was ferocious and his eyes were like lightning. He had a wide mouth that revealed his white teeth, a pair of small eyes that were like black beans, and a black beard that was like a sword or a steel brush. Although this person wore a green Taoist robe, he did not have the temperament of a monk at all. Instead, he was ferocious and had a strong murderous aura, like a peerless general. This is, Song Shuangyan, who was in the middle of cultivating with her sword in hand, was suddenly startled. She was so scared that her sword almost fell to the ground. Sect leader has come out of seclusion. Rumble. The void trembled, and a person shot out on a sword, instantly crossing hundreds of meters of the void and landing on the training field. Greetings, sect master. Many elders, hall leaders, and disciples all kowtowed on the ground with respectful eyes. Whoosh! The sect leader of Mount Amei, Hao Taichung, opened his mouth and took a deep breath. The blood-colored sword suddenly shrank, fell into his mouth, and was swallowed by him. Using your body to nourish the sword. Seeing this scene, several elders who had reached the god realm were even more shocked, and the reverence on their faces was even more obvious. Congratulations, sect leader, for successfully cultivating the blood god's sword. This time, you have stepped into the real immortal realm. Hao Taichung did not answer and did not care. He just glanced around and asked in a loud voice, who is Song Shuangyan? Disciple Song Shuangyan greets sect leader. In the crowd, Song Shuangyan, who was dressed in plain clothes and looked even more otherworldly, quickly stepped forward and bowed. I have seen the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. It is real. From now on, you are my personal disciple. Hao Taichung said decisively. Thank you, master. Song Shuangyan's eyes were filled with excitement. She quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed, secretly hating in her heart. Jiang Tian, oh Jiang Tian, Hao Taichung is already at the immortal realm. Killing you, is it not easy? Sect leader, you came out of seclusion this time for? An elder asked. It is time for the sword tomb, which is opened once every 11 years. Last time I was in seclusion and missed it. This time, no matter what, I have to go. Hao Taichung flung his sleeves and said disdainfully, by the way, I will kill Kang Taichu. As he spoke, two sword lights shot out from his eyes, as if they could cut the world. Song Shuangyan was surprised and quickly bowed, Master, this time I am willing to go with you. Yes. Hao Taichung said with an evil face, he killed my beloved disciple Bai Dicheng and my sister Hao Hongmei. This time, I will let him know the real power of Mount Amei sword sect. In Diansong. Boom. A loud noise came. Many disciples saw it. The Maoyuan peak of Diansong's 19 peaks was directly smashed by a mountain that fell from the sky. Is there an attack from the strong? Who is causing trouble? Could it be a powerful spellmaster? Many disciples were shocked, holding their swords and waiting. No. It is not an attack from the strong. The sect leader has broken through. Half-step human immortal, moving mountain realm. Elder Liang Zichen looked in the direction of the Maoyuan peak with a face full of surprise. Ta! Everyone saw a figure wearing a white Taoist robe, stepping on a white cloud, crossing a distance of several kilometers and flying over. When this person landed, it was a young man with sword-like eyebrows, bright eyes, shoulder-length hair, and a strong aura. If he was not wearing a special Taoist robe with embroidered patterns and holding a cloud-patterned sword that only the sect leader could use, no one would know that this was the sect leader of Diansong, Zhou Zixuan. Rejuvenation, is this the immortality realm? Liang Zichen was shocked and dumbfounded. Congratulations sect leader for breaking through to half-step human immortal. Congratulations sect leader for having a deep cultivation and a long life. Liang Zichen led many elders and disciples to kneel on the ground, respectfully praying. Rise. Zhou Zixuan said with a gratified face. I have to thank Kang Te-Chu for giving me so much pressure, allowing me to advance bravely. Within a year, I have broken through the moving mountain, opening heaven, and immortality realms, and finally reached half-step human immortal. I have truly stepped into the human immortal realm. Liang Zichen heard this and hesitated. Zichen, you and the 5 elders will follow me down the mountain to the sword tomb in the extreme north, Zhou Zixuan said in a deep voice. Senior brother, are we not going to avenge Haitao and the others' deaths? Liang Zichen frowned. No. Zhou Zixuan's eyes were filled with greed. He sneered and said, this time, I will force Kang Te-Chu to tell me his cultivation technique. I heard that he might have come from the ruins of immortality. At Tian Shan, thousands of miles of snow were covered in ice. Under the gaze of many disciples. Crack. A stone door that had been sealed in ice for decades suddenly cracked open. Then, the door opened with a loud bang, and an old man in a long robe walked out. This old man has been in seclusion for 30 years. Cough, cough, cough. I'm finally out. I'm afraid the world doesn't know me anymore. The old man leaned on a wilted plum cane and covered his mouth with his fist. He coughed repeatedly and a sickly flush appeared on his sallow face. This old man was wearing an old sheepskin robe, like an old farmer in the Qing dynasty. His face was haggard and his aura was weak. His back was hunched and he looked old, as if he was about to die. He only spoke one sentence. However, within a radius of 10 miles, billions of snowflakes suddenly stopped in the air as if they were frozen in the air by magic. I heard that a kid called Kang Te-Chu has risen in the mortal world. He might be a guest from the ruins of immortality and has a supreme cultivation technique. Li Jiuyo, the sect master of Tian Shan, laughed strangely. Then, he stepped into the air and flew down the mountain like a dragon. This time, when I come out of seclusion, I must obtain the hidden treasures of the sword catacomb. I will kill Kang Te-Chu. It was only after he had dashed out for 5 kilometers that the snowflakes in this area started to flutter and drift down. Congratulations, Master. I hope you can get the secret of the sword tomb and kill Kang Te-Chu. Behind him, a group of disciples knelt on the ground as if they were looking at a god. Vancouver, Canada. The headquarters of the Hong Sect International. The headquarters of the Hong Sect. It was a 199-story modern building overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The blue glass wall shone brightly under the sunlight. The entire building was solemn and dignified. It was like a blue sword that pierced the sky. On the top floor, there was a super grand hall with an area of 3,000 square meters. However, it was decorated in an antique style. There were carved corridors and painted pavilions. There were small bridges over flowing water, rockery, and 9 winding corridors. It was as if one had stepped into the Suzhou Gardens of the Qing dynasty. Meanwhile, the president of the Hong Sect and many other disciples of the Hong Sect bowed slightly to the coffin. Their faces were filled with anticipation as they looked at a crystal coffin. Inside the coffin lay a young man wearing a Qing dynasty scholar's outfit. Although this person had jet black hair and handsome features, there was not a trace of blood on his body. His skin was sparkling and translucent. Time passed slowly. The sect master of the Hong Sect frowned and heaved a sigh. 100 years ago, the sect master had stopped his lifespan and stopped his blood circulation. The sect master had predicted that the sect master would wake up soon, but for the past few months, the sect master showed no signs of waking up. Could it be that the sect master is truly dead? Just as the president was about to turn around and leave in disappointment, thinking that today was going to be the same as before, suddenly. Crack. A crack appeared on the surface of the crystal coffin. Red light flickered and multicolored light gushed out. A vigorous blood energy pervaded the air like clouds and mist. Is the sect master going to wake up? The disciples of the Hong sect looked at each other and saw the joy on each other's faces. Quiet. Don't disturb the sect master. The sect master of the Hong sect glared at the disciples and his body trembled. No one knew if it was out of fear or excitement. Boom! A streak of blood-red light pierced through the roof like a blood-red sword. It had the power to destroy the heavens and earth as it shot towards the heavens. Suddenly, the entire hall was swept away by a crimson tornado. Rocks were sent flying, buildings collapsed, and glass windows shattered. Shards of glass fluttered in the air like butterflies. Everyone was sent flying by a monstrous force and landed on the ground in a sorry state. In the middle of the crimson-red smoke. Everyone watched as the figure slowly stood up from the fragments of the coffin. Like a god stepping on the eternal blue sky, he walked over step by step. Chapter 732. Thud. The leader of the Hong sect dropped to his knees and said, I am Situ Lei, the 33rd leader of the Hong sect. It is an honor to meet you, ancestral master. The old man looked around curiously at the cars, buildings, sailing boats, and racing boats. Then, he pulled himself together and said with a smile, Why don't you keep your hair long? Why are you wearing suits? Don't break the rules of your ancestors. It has been 100 years. The Qing dynasty is gone, and so is the Republic of China. Huaxia is ruled by the Han Chinese. The leader of the Hong sect said with a trembling voice. Is the Qing dynasty gone? Situ Zhao's eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life as a complicated expression flashed across his face. The world has changed, and the world has changed. It's really not easy for you to protect the foundation of your ancestors. Ancestral master, why are you awake this time? Situ Lei asked. I am waiting for the opening of the sword tomb and the ruins of immortality. Situ Zhao sighed with emotion, as if he was unwilling to say more, and said in a deep voice, However, I have heard your prayers a while ago. It seems that a powerful man named Kang Te-Chu has been born. Ancestral master, during the Republic of China, Yi Tianren had defeated us and the Hong sect. We had no choice but to hide in North America. Situ Lei said with grief and indignation. After decades of hard work, we've finally recovered and have the foundation to return to China. However, our cooperation with the Great Circle was ruined by Kang Te-Chu. He had killed Situ Yuanhao and the others. Give me a copy of their information. Situ Zhao flung his sleeves, his eyes flashing with a trace of coldness, and said proudly, I have reached the earth-level deity level. I can kill them as easily as killing chickens. Yes. The leader of the Hong sect was overjoyed by the news. Ancestral master, I am sure that the Hong sect will rise again and achieve immortality. At that time, the place where the Nine Swords deity had perished, the sword tomb, was about to open. Many semi-hidden sects in Huaxia were shocked. All the experts in the world gathered, including immortal state warriors and human immortals. More importantly, many people wanted to kill Jiang Tian, rob him of the map of the ruins of immortality, or obtain his cultivation method. Moscow Airport. The lead gray sky was very gloomy, and heavy snow was falling. A Boeing 737 cut through the sky, passing through the heavy snow and slowly landing. On the flight, everyone was wrapped in down jackets and thick cotton clothes. It was the beginning of 2011 and spring had not yet begun. The temperature in Moscow was -10 degrees Celsius. Every drop of water turned into ice. Heavy snow was falling from the sky, and the ground was covered with ice. However, a figure that stood out from the crowd walked out. He was dressed in plain clothes, which looked very thin. There was not a single piece of warm clothing on him. Sir, do you need a warm down jacket? Suddenly, a Chinese girl who got off the plane with him asked. No, thank you. Jiang Tian shook his head. Aren't you cold? the girl asked worriedly. I'm not cold. Jiang Tian's expression was calm. All right. The girl was about 18 or 19 years old. She looked cute and innocent. She wrapped the down jacket tightly and said gloomily, it's more than 30 degrees Celsius in Hong Kong, but here it's minus 10 degrees Celsius. I'm freezing to death. Are you okay? I'm fine. Jiang Tian chuckled and said, I have a special constitution, so I'm not sensitive to the temperature. This low temperature is nothing to me. The two of them chatted as they walked out of the airport. The girl was very talkative and introduced herself to Chen Fan. Her name was Li Wan. Her father was involved in the mining and oil industry in Russia. She opened a Chinese restaurant in Moscow. She came back to Hong Kong to spend the Spring Festival with her mother. Are you really not cold? After they left the airport, Li Wan suddenly grabbed Jiang Tian's hand and didn't want to let go. Ah, you are not cold at all. Your hand is like a hand warmer. I was wondering why I felt so warm around you. You're just a little human furnace. Li Wan. Before Jiang Tian could break free from her grip, he heard someone yelling at him. A tall young man walked toward them and said unhappily, Why are you holding someone's hand on the street? Xiong, it's none of your business. I am not your girlfriend. Li Wan purposely held Jiang Tian's hand tightly and retorted, I like holding his hand. It's so warm, so cool, so comfortable. She had an intoxicated look on her face as she moaned softly, causing people's imaginations to run wild. Xiong face suddenly froze. He was extremely embarrassed. Then he said softly, Wan, Moscow is a mess right now. What if you meet a bad guy? I'm just concerned about you. Jiang Tian could tell that Xiong was Li Wan's admirer, so he didn't want to cause any misunderstanding. He pulled his hand out and said with a smile, Mr. Xiong, you misunderstood me. I am not a bad guy. I just met Li Wan. Jiang Tian wanted to avoid any misunderstanding. But Xiong despised him in his heart. Humph, a gigolo who can't even truss a chicken. He must be afraid of my fists. It was just a chance encounter. It was time to say goodbye. But suddenly Li Wan asked enthusiastically, Jiang Tian, where are you going next? Oh, I plan to go to Severnaya Zemlya. I will find a hotel to stay in tonight and find a travel agency tomorrow. Jiang Tian said lightly. Severnaya Zemlya, that's in the Arctic Circle. Li Wan had lived in Russia for many years and knew very well, although the Arctic tourism is very popular now, the time to go there is still mainly in summer. There are very few tourists going there at this time. Of course, there are also very few travel agencies that carry out this business now. She suddenly had an idea and invited him enthusiastically, how about this, you can stay at my house. Eat some authentic Chinese food and drink a few cups of lao bai. I will help you contact a travel agency tomorrow. It will be much more convenient. Thank you. Jiang Tian also had an indifferent attitude. He thought that it was good to have a local lead the way. Xiong suddenly became vigilant. Li Wan can't have taken a fancy to this gigolo, right? That's not good. He pulled Li Wan to the side and whispered, we don't know him, how can we let him stay at your house? Narrow-minded. Look at how stingy you are. Li Wan glared at him and said, the Chinese people in the world are one family. He is alone outside with no relatives. He might be bullied. Russia's public security is not as good as China's. We can help him if we can. Xiong was originally poor and went to Russia alone to work in Li Wan's restaurant. He was hardworking and quite manly. Li Wan's father took a fancy to him and wanted to matchmake him with Li Wan, with the intention of letting him marry into the Li family. But no matter what, it was still up to Li Wan. Since Li Wan said so, he didn't dare to disobey and could only agree. Xiong face was gloomy. He silently opened the car door and got into the driver's seat. Come, get in. We will be home soon. Li Wan pulled Jiang Tian to the back seat and sat side by side. The car started, broke through the heavy snow, and drove towards Li Wan's house. After a while, they arrived at Li Wan's house. Li Wan's family was not bad. They had a detached villa with a front and back garden. The theme building was more than 200 square meters. In front of them was a 3-story restaurant. It was said that they had hired more than a dozen local people to help them. The annual income was more than 1,000,000 Huaxia yuan. From this, it could be seen that the hard-working Huaxia people could establish a foothold anywhere in the world and survive well with their own hands. In the world, the Han people were the most outstanding and hard-working race. They didn't have the arrogance of the white people, nor the laziness of the black people. Li Wan prepared some dishes. In the living room, Jiang Tian and the other two ate and chatted. Li Wan curiously asked Jiang Tian, "How can you resist the cold? Were you in the army?" "You can say that." Jiang Tian hesitated and nodded. He was once the chief consultant of the Dragon Army. He also fought against foreign experts and defeated foreign armies. From this point of view, Jiang Tian was the most authentic soldier. It could even be said that if Jiang Tian wasn't a soldier, there wouldn't be many soldiers in the world. "TSK, what are you bragging about? With your small body, you were in the army?" Xiong Heng's face was full of disdain. He looked at Jiang Tian provocatively and said, "Which army are you from?" "Supreme General Staff, Dragon Army." Jiang Tian said indifferently. "You should have some sense when you're bragging." Xiong Heng suddenly widened his eyes and laughed. "Dragon Army, do you know what kind of people are in there? They are not ordinary people. You can say that they are not human. One of them can fight against 100 soldiers. Any one of Dragon Army's soldiers can flip over a small car. Brother, flip it over for me to see. Even bullets can't kill you. Do you want me to shoot you?" Jiang Tian chuckled and didn't say anything. He didn't take the provocation of such a small character to heart. Fine. Could it be that he really flipped over a small car for him to see? Summer insects can't talk about ice, frogs at the bottom of a well can't talk about the sea. If you were to talk about the earth, the sun, everything in the universe, the stars, and the sea with an ant, would he be able to understand? At this time, Xiong Heng finally felt that his chance was here. He could regain some of his dignity. "Brother, you've made a fool of yourself, haven't you? You didn't expect me to know so much about the army, right?" He picked up a Winston cigarette and lit it. He took a deep puff and said arrogantly, "Look at my casserole fists. One look and you can tell that I've been trained. How can your punches compare to mine? To be honest, I'm a former Navy officer and a member of the Dragon Army. Have you heard of them?" Jiang Tian could only nod. The Dragon Army is the trump card of the Navy. Xiong Heng drank a mouthful of vodka to warm himself up and bragged, "At that time, I was a hot-blooded youth. I would help anyone I saw. Once when I went home to visit my family, I saw a few gangsters robbing a little girl in an alley. They had guns. But I took them down in an instant with my bare hands. Not only was the girl beautiful, but she was also the daughter of a big company's CEO. She was worth billions. They said that I was good at fighting and wanted me to be their bodyguard. They even wanted to pursue me, but I didn't agree. At that time, I still wanted to return to the army and serve the country." Jiang Tian thought to himself, "You read too many online novels. There were only a few female CEOs worth billions in Huaxia. Rich people cherished their lives the most. With this kind of wealth, which one of them didn't go out in a bulletproof car with a group of bodyguards? Why would gangsters rob her? She didn't even have the chance to get close." Chapter 733. Besides, Huaxia's gun control was the strictest in the world. How could ordinary hooligans get a gun? "Jiang Tian, drink." Xiong Heng poured a cup of vodka into Jiang Tian's cup. "Forget it, I don't like drinking." Jiang Tian shook his head and refused. He didn't like the taste of vodka. I can tell you're not a man. You were even a soldier. Which soldier can't drink well? Xionghan looked at Jiang Tian with disdain, poured himself a drink, and continued to brag. Once, we were on an anti-terrorist mission in the southern border. The three of us had 3 guns and ran out of bullets, but we still defeated a fully armed reinforced battalion with our bare hands. However, Achi was sacrificed that time. At this moment, a trace of sadness appeared on his face, and he sighed. A few of my comrades and I were sending Achi's ashes home, and we happened to see a group of people demolishing Achi's house. The orphan and widow were beaten to the point that they couldn't get up. These bastards are not human. His eyes were red, and tears were about to flow out. The hero was bleeding and sacrificing at the front, but the hero's family was being bullied by hooligans at the back. I couldn't help it. I took off my military cap and kicked the leader of the hooligans 7 or 8 meters away. He vomited blood on the spot and became a vegetable. Sigh, although the leader wanted to protect me, and although my motives were understandable, it was still a serious violation of the rules, so I could only retire. He smacked the table proudly and said, otherwise, I would have been a first lieutenant colonel after working for so long. Jiang Tian felt that what he said was very similar to the plot of an action movie. Besides, if you were really from the Navy, why did you go on an army mission? But he didn't want to expose him, so he didn't want to say anything. At this time, Li Wan changed the topic and asked Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, what do you do for a living? Why did you go to Severnaya Zemlya? Do you study science? At this moment, she no longer believed that Jiang Tian was a professional soldier. She also thought that Jiang Tian was bragging. Originally, she had a good impression of Jiang Tian and wanted to give Jiang Tian a chance to stay in the family restaurant as a supervisor. Not to mention other things, but it wouldn't be a problem to give him 20 to 30,000 yuan a month. In 2011, it was rare to be able to earn more than 300,000 yuan a year. But now, she had given up on this idea. Jiang Tian didn't seem to have any real ability. He was just pretending to be amazing. Therefore, she planned to send Jiang Tian away tomorrow. This kind of person was not worth befriending. Let's travel. Could it be that Jiang Tian said he was going to explore the ruins of the immortals? They were even more confused. He bragged about his glorious deeds in the army for a while. Xionghan drank a few cups of wine and became enthusiastic again. He slammed the table and said with great vigor, however, even though I have retired from the army, as long as my motherland calls for me, I will still go into battle and kill the enemy. Protecting the country and its people is the responsibility of every descendant of the Yellow Emperor. Then, he stared at Jiang Tian with a ferocious expression and smiled maliciously. Also, let me tell you, Li Wan is destined to be my woman. Whoever dares to touch her will die. This was already a full threat. Yes, I hope you can be happy. But Jiang Tian only smiled faintly and nodded. Seeing this, Xionghan despised Jiang Tian even more. He felt that it was really lonely to be invincible. You can't even withstand a single blow. How could a helpless gigolo compare to me? I am destined to be the son-in-law of the Li family. I will inherit millions of Huaxia's assets. At this moment, the door was slammed open by a car. Then, a man covered in blood staggered into the room. Dad! Li Wan saw this and was shocked. Uncle, what's wrong? Xionghan hurried to support Li Jianguo and asked in a panic. Run! You guys run! Li Jianguo was shot in the shoulder. His face was pale as he screamed, Black Bear is here. He's here to kill us. They didn't know how to react. Suddenly, bang bang bang. After a few gunshots, bullets broke the window and wooden door, leaving a trail of bullet marks on the back wall of the living room. It was a shocking sight. Then, a dozen men in camouflage uniforms rushed in. They were all carrying AK-47s and wearing locomotive caps. They looked fierce. They immediately kicked open the doors of each room and rushed in to search. Black Bear, I have already given you the mining rights under my name. Why do you still want to kill us? Li Jiangguo saw this and shouted angrily. Even thieves have morals. Tomahawk is the #1 mafia group in Russia. Don't you have morals? You people in Huaxia have a saying, cut the weeds and dig up the roots. Of course, I will kill your whole family to prevent future trouble. The leader was a man in a black trench coat, a mink fur scarf, leather boots, and a full beard. His nose was tall and big, his skin was very white, his body hair was thick, and his hair was brownish yellow. He was a typical Russian. Black Bear was like his name. He was more than 2 meters tall. He was as majestic as a black bear, like an NBA guard. Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Xiongheng and said, Xiongheng, your chance to protect the country and its people is here. Go, your country is in trouble. How can a hot-blooded soldier like you stand by and watch? Bring out your hot-bloodedness, bring out your skills. They have guns. Didn't you see? Xiongheng was stunned. Then, his face turned red as he defended himself. He was indeed bragging just now. But the other party had a few AKs. If he made a move, he would probably be shot into a sieve. These were Tomahawk's men. Russia's largest mafia group. They were even more ruthless than the mafia. They were in cahoots with the police to kill people and steal their goods. No one could stop them. Hee, didn't you say that when you went home to visit your family, you beat down a gangster with a gun with your bare hands? Jiang Tian smiled and said, didn't you say that when you ran out of bullets, you still beat up an entire battalion with your bare hands? Aren't you a soldier? Aren't you a hot-blooded man? Why don't you go? Hurry up and go. Being mocked by Jiang Tian, Xiongheng couldn't hold back his anger anymore. He shouted anxiously, do you think I'm stupid? I'm going to die. If you have the guts, go ahead. You don't know who's behind Black Bear. You don't know how powerful Tomahawk is. A moment later, the Li family's servants and cooks who were asleep were dragged out. They were ordered to kneel on the ground and put their hands on their heads. Xiongheng only hesitated for a second, but his nose was smashed by the butt of a gun. In the end, he could only kneel on the ground with his hands on his head. As for Jiang Tian, they didn't pay attention to Jiang Tian from the beginning to the end. Maybe they thought that Jiang Tian was too handsome and didn't pose a threat. Suddenly, Black Bear's eyes fell on Li Wan. He grinned, Li, your daughter is very beautiful. Huaxia's women are always so petite and cute. I like it. He grabbed Li Wan like an eagle grabbing a chick. In the midst of her pleas and screams, Black Bear tore Li Wan's down jacket and wanted to do something bad to her. At this moment, Xiongheng's body trembled. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He wanted to go. He liked Li Wan for a few years. How could he watch her be humiliated? But in the end, he didn't dare to move. His head was pointed at by a gun. If he moved his head, he would be crushed like a watermelon. At this moment, all the Li family's servants, cooks, and helpers were furious. Li Wan was magnanimous and generous. She treated people gently and generously. These servants and cooks had all received her kindness. But they didn't dare to say anything. Xiongheng was right. Black Bear killed people without batting an eyelid. They really couldn't afford to offend him. Ordinary people couldn't afford to offend anyone. Xiongheng, save me. After all, Li Wan was a weak woman. Even if she had a strong personality, 2 lines of tears flowed down her face. She struggled and shouted. Wan, don't resist. Don't scream. Otherwise, they will really kill you. Don't be afraid. I won't abandon you. Xiongheng lowered his head and screamed. From beginning to end, Li Jiangguo closed his eyes and didn't say a word. But he gritted his teeth. As long as he could survive today, he would fight Tomahawk to the death. The other's eyes were filled with despair, helplessness, and fear. They trembled like birds in a hurricane. At this moment, Jiang Tian slowly stood up and grabbed the vodka bottle on the table. He then looked at Xiong with disdain. I'll give you 4 words, coward. Trash. What are you doing? Squat down. Li Jiangguo exclaimed. This child had nothing to do with the Li family. His daughter must have met him at the airport. He didn't want Jiang Tian to be killed. Bang! Jiang Tian waved his hand without hesitation. The bottle flew out of his hand and exploded on Black Bear's head. A stream of blood flowed down Black Bear's forehead. Black Bear was motionless and stunned for a moment. He pushed Li Wan aside and looked at Jiang Tian with a grim smile. Hua Xia, you're courting death. Jiang Tian. Li Wan was shocked, touched, and worried. She didn't expect that Jiang Tian, a stranger she met by chance, would help her. But Jiang Tian's fate was not hard to imagine. Black Bear, don't kill him. I can give you another mining rights. Li Jiangguo was shocked and begged for Jiang Tian. Black Bear would definitely not let him and his daughter go because he was afraid that they would call the police and Li Jiangguo would take revenge. But Black Bear might not kill the others. In other words, Jiang Tian and Xiong originally had a chance to escape. It's best if Black Bear and the others kill Jiang Tian. This will also prove that my patience is right and won't make me look like a coward. On the other hand, Xiong was gloating in his heart. Now kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, and I won't kill you. Jiang Tian said very seriously. If they did so, Jiang Tian would really let them go. If Jiang Tian killed someone, it was likely to alarm the Russian police and enter the Russian military's field of vision. In this way, the risk of his actions in Russia would greatly increase. Even if the Russian army couldn't threaten Jiang Tian, it would inevitably cause some trouble. After all, Jiang Tian came to the Sword Tomb to look for treasures, not to cause trouble. There was no need for this. Jiang Tian wanted to save Li Wan's family. After all, Li Wan was hospitable and her parents were kind people. But it wasn't to the point where Jiang Tian would sacrifice his own interests for them. Chapter 734. Ha ha ha, you really have a sense of humor. He Xiong almost laughed himself to death. This was the biggest joke he had heard this year. The other Tomahawk members also laughed and looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a fool. He Xiong is one of the leaders of Tomahawk's Moscow branch. Before this, any Chinese people, even the underworld bosses, would be scared to death when they met him. It was the first time he met someone as reckless as Jiang Tian. Young man, don't fight them head on. You should run away. Resistance will only lead to death. Even Li Jiangguo shook his head helplessly. Xiong was gloating and almost laughed out loud. An ordinary person, a kid without even a chicken, dared to challenge He Xiong. Was his brain damaged? He Xiong, don't kill him, I beg you. Li Wan could only kowtow and beg for mercy. Just a small fry, not worth mentioning. What is there to be afraid of? Why do you need to run away? Why do you need to kneel to them? Jiang Tian smiled faintly. If it was any other situation, Jiang Tian's performance would definitely make Li Jiangguo bow to Jiang Tian, drink a cup of wine and praise him as a good brother. But now, Li Jiangguo almost vomited blood. This kid is very loyal and courageous, but his brain seems to be lacking. Can't you see that he is holding a gun? Okay, kill him. He Xiong's face was full of ridicule. He looked at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at a fool and then waved his hand. Bang! A Tomahawk member took out a long knife and slashed at Jiang Tian without saying a word. Sigh. I didn't want to kill anyone, but you forced me. Jiang Tian sighed and punched out. Boom! A big hole appeared in the gunman's body. Pieces of internal organs and broken bones flew everywhere and turned into a rain of blood. What? Everyone was stunned, as if they had seen a ghost. He killed a living person with a single punch. Shoot! He Xiong was the first to react. Just as he pulled out his pistol, Jiang Tian had already moved. Pa! Jiang Tian's palm slammed down. The black bear started from its head, then its chest, its waist, its legs, and finally its huge body exploded one after another. At this moment, Li Jiangguo was stunned by Jiang Tian's methods. His face turned pale as he exclaimed, "Oh my God, he's a legendary martial arts master." At this moment, his heart almost jumped out of his throat, and the hairs on his entire body stood on end. He didn't have the slightest contempt towards Jiang Tian, and he only felt as if he'd seen a true god. At this time, the remaining gunmen finally reacted. They raised their guns, aimed at Jiang Tian, and were about to shoot. Die! Jiang Tian bellowed and flicked his finger. Bang! A golden beam of light shot through the air. It was resplendent and drew an irregular arc in the air. Bang bang bang! The heads of all the axes exploded in an instant, and the headless corpses fell to the ground. From beginning to end, it took less than 3 seconds. Jiang Tian had killed He Xiong and his henchmen with a single punch, a palm strike, and a flick of his finger. By now, Xiong Heng had realized that Jiang Tian was a martial arts master. He was shocked, frightened, and ashamed. Li Wan also realized that Jiang Tian was not an ordinary man. She was even more grateful and impressed by Jiang Tian. If it weren't for Jiang Tian, she would have been killed. Li Jiangguo bowed to Jiang Tian with great respect. "Mr. Jiang, thank you for saving my family. I will never forget your great kindness." Jiang Tian nodded slightly and asked, "You are a martial artist?" "That's right. I have practiced martial arts before, but I have only reached the level of iron body." Li Jiangguo asked curiously, "Are you a transcendent master?" Jiang Tian didn't answer. Even a transcendent grandmaster couldn't withstand one of his attacks. Jiang Tian changed the subject and said, "I know that tomahawk is a powerful force and will most likely seek revenge. However, I have important matters to attend to, so I can't help you eliminate the root of the problem. Therefore, you should avoid them and leave when you should." Li Jiangguo asked, "Savior, where are you going?" Li Wan hurriedly spoke for Jiang Tian. By then, everyone was panicking as they looked at the blood on the ground. Some of them wanted to call the police, while others wanted to run. Tomahawk had a lot of men and they would definitely come after them. Li Jiangguo said decisively, "Master Kong, there are no flights to the Severnaya Zemlya. The closer you are to the Arctic Circle, the harder it is to travel. But I used to mine in Siberia, so I have a lot of experience. Besides, I am a good cook and Xiong Heng is a diligent worker. Master Kong, if you don't mind, why don't we go with you?" "Very well." Jiang Tian pondered for a moment and then nodded. Li Jiangguo didn't hesitate. He asked a few helpers to clean up the blood and gave each of them a large sum of money. He then asked Li Wan and Xiong Heng to pack up the food, water, and survival equipment and loaded them into a pickup truck. Then, he left with Jiang Tian, his daughter, and Xiong Heng and drove to the north of Moscow. Li Jiangguo had lived in Russia for more than a decade and had many friends in the mining industry. Along the way, he didn't stop in the city or stay in a hotel. However, he could always find Chinese geological and mining sites in the deep mountains and forests. The journey was arduous. The weather was cold, the wind was cold, and the ice blades were cold. Even the engine was frozen. Every time before the journey, he had to melt the ice with a flamethrower before the engine could start. Although the conditions were harsh, at least there was meat to eat, wine to drink, and friends to receive them. It was not bad. During the journey, Xiong Heng tried his best to please Li Wan. However, Li Wan ignored him. She didn't smile from beginning to end. Instead, she was very enthusiastic and worshipful of Jiang Tian. All day long, she would ask Jiang Tian all kinds of questions. After the incident with the black bear, she finally saw Xiong character. He was simply a good-for-nothing. Xiong was jealous of Jiang Tian. However, when he thought of Jiang Tian's monstrous means, he couldn't do anything about it. He avoided Jiang Tian several times and secretly persuaded Li Jiangguo to abandon Jiang Tian or hand Jiang Tian over to Tomahawk. He said that it would be troublesome if Tomahawk caught up with Jiang Tian. After all, Tomahawk had someone. However, Li Jiangguo was unmoved. When he persuaded him too much, Li Jiangguo scolded him for being ungrateful. Xiong was helpless and could only give up. He prayed that Tomahawk would catch up and kill Jiang Tian. This way, he would have one less competitor and prove that his previous actions were right and rational. Unfortunately, Li Jiangguo was very clear about Tomahawk's sphere of influence and avoided their pursuit every time. In the end, they traveled thousands of miles and finally reached the Arctic Circle, the northernmost city in Russia. Snow City. This city was very small. There were only tens of thousands of people living in it. The streets and buildings were covered with ice and snow. It was a polar night and the sky was very dim. And one could see the beautiful aurora. It was like a kingdom of ice and snow. Li Jiangguo said respectfully, "Master Kong, Snow City is the northernmost city I've ever been to. I haven't been further north. In this season, there are very few people traveling to Severnaya Zemlya because it's too dangerous. Almost no travel society takes on missions. You have to find a professional team. Otherwise, if you get lost in the Arctic Circle, it's very likely that. But I know someone who travels and adventures to Severnaya Zemlya every year for several years. He's very experienced and basically knows everything. If you don't mind, I can help you contact him." "Okay." Jiang Tian nodded. The sword tomb of the Immortal of Nine Swords was on an island in Severnaya Zemlya. He had a map. When he reached Severnaya Zemlya, he could get rid of them and find the island he was looking for. Seeing this, Li Jiangguo was overjoyed. He had helped him all the way. Then, he hesitated and said, "But Master Kong, this woman has a noble status. Master Kong, try not to provoke her. Otherwise, it might cause some unnecessary trouble." Noble status? Jiang Tian wanted to laugh when he heard that. She had a noble status. How could she be more noble than him, the Taichu Celestial Venerable? That was ridiculous. Yes, this woman is the beloved daughter of Berezovsky, the Russian financial and energy oligarch. Her father can be said to be a close comrade of the two Russian emperors. Li Jiangguo said with a trace of respect on his face as he drove. He was a close friend of the current emperor in the KGB. He was also a good friend of the former Emperor Yeltsin. When Yeltsin retired, he was the one who suggested that Yeltsin choose the current emperor of Russia. At the beginning of 2001, the current emperor had attacked the Russian oligarchs in hopes of breaking their monopoly and reviving the Russian economy. The 6 oligarchs, such as the CEO of Yux Oil and the former richest man in Russia, were all arrested and imprisoned on various charges. Only Berezovsky remained standing. Of course, Berezovsky also gave away some of his assets, such as part of the shares of the Siberian Gas Company. He also praised the emperor's new policies in the media he controlled, just like the red-top merchants of the ancient Huaxia. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. He had learned about this in his previous life. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, in 1992, Yeltsin decided to immediately divide the country's assets in the form of 148 million checks and vouchers. However, the privatization of securities did not form a broad class of private owners. Instead, it became a means for the bureaucratic bourgeoisie to buy privatized securities at a low price and turn state-owned assets into private property. A very small number of people saw a business opportunity. They used their connections to borrow funds from the National Bank and tried their best to buy vouchers. Then, they used them to gain control of some outstanding companies. Once they gained control, whether they continued to operate the company or sold it, it would be a huge profit. In this way, the oligarchs extended their hands to the oil, metallurgy, media, food, and other industries. They almost completely controlled the lifeline of the Russian economy. The wealth that originally belonged to the people instantly flowed into the pockets of the oligarchs. They built their own empire on the ruins of the Soviet Union. The radical reforms aroused the anger of the people. Before the 1996 election, Yeltsin's position was in danger. In order to seek re-election, Yeltsin met with the CEO of the United Bank, Berezovsky, the CEO of the Bridge Bank, and 7 other financial giants in the Kremlin. He reached an agreement with the 7 of them. Then, the 7 of them used their own money and media to start propaganda. They used the high-pressure policies of the Soviet Union to awaken the painful memories of the past in people's hearts. In the end, the fear of Stalin's high-pressure rule won over the anger of Yeltsin's incompetence, and Yeltsin was re-elected. At the inauguration ceremony, the 7 oligarchs, led by Berezovsky, sat in the front row. They were full of smiles and drank with Yeltsin. The 7 giants became known to the world. Chapter 735. The oligarchs welcomed the best time in history. With money, they could even decide the appointment of the Russian Prime Minister. The oligarchs became the true rulers of Russia. But after the new Russian emperor ascended to the throne, he began to massacre the oligarchs. Under the suppression of the powerful departments, some of the 6 magnates went into exile overseas, some were imprisoned, and some died of illness. All of them were reduced to ashes. Only Berezovsky was safe and sound. This person could be called a roly-poly. He dealt with the 2 emperors with ease. His methods were very terrifying. Also, he and the new oligarchs led by Vich regained control of Russia's gas, oil, and mining industries. To put it bluntly, it was just a change of emperor. Also, there's another rumor. Li Jianguo lowered his voice and gossiped. There's another reason why the emperor let Berezovsky go. His daughter, Anfia, also worked in the KGB and was in a relationship with the emperor. She was his lover. As the daughter of a big oligarch and the lover of the emperor, Anfia had great influence in Russia's upper-class society. She could talk to many tycoons on an equal footing. She had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas with a word. Therefore, she was called Princess Anfia. Soon, Jiang Tian and the others arrived at a vast and luxurious manor in the northern suburbs of Snow City. The heavy snow pressed down on the pine trees, and the 4-lane asphalt road was straight. In the manor, there were sentries everywhere, and it was heavily guarded. Many burly Russian men in black windbreakers patrolled back and forth with submachine guns in their hands. Their eyes were vigilant and covetous. In such a place, Xiongheng, who always liked to brag, was cowering like a quail, not daring to say a word. "Hey, Paul, is my old friend, Princess Anfia here?" It was not Li Jianguo's first time here. He was very familiar with the guard leaders and greeted them warmly. "She's hunting and will be back soon. The princess is looking forward to the Maotai wine you brought. If you don't bring it, you'll be surrounded by bears." Paul shrugged his shoulders and smirked. He patted Li Jianguo's shoulder and led the group to a living room. There was a leather sofa imported from Italy, exquisite porcelain, fragrant coffee, and a silent but polite old servant. Pine branches were burning in the fully enclosed fireplace, and there were many brown bear and tiger specimens hanging on the wall. There were also some oil paintings by famous artists. Every detail of the manor showed its deep heritage. A moment later, an army green SUV drove into the yard. The legendary Princess Anfia had arrived late. Very young. Jiang Tian sighed inwardly. This woman was in her early 20s and was much taller than the average Asian woman. She was nearly 1.8 meters tall and wore a sapphire blue suede hunting suit, brown riding pants, high riding boots, and a black exquisite helmet. She looked like a female hunter, valiant and murderous. However, he raised his chin slightly, looking very arrogant. "Li, my old friend, I didn't expect you to want to go to Severnaya Zemlya. That place is very dangerous. She glanced at them and said disdainfully, you're courting death. Princess Anfia. It's Mr. Jiang. Li Jiangguo hurriedly stood up and bowed deeply, wanting to introduce Jiang Tian to Anfia. Let's not talk about this for now. Anfia frowned in disgust. She arrogantly and coldly said, I heard that you killed Black Bear from Tomahawk and more than a dozen people. Li Jiangguo's heart skipped a beat as he hurriedly explained. Miss Anfia, Black Bear forcefully bought my minerals at an unfair price. I endured the humiliation and agreed, but they still want to kill me. I can't let them take advantage of me. Li, you killed my brother, and I've been chasing you. But you're very cunning. You don't stay in the city and slipped through my fingers a few times. At this moment, a person suddenly walked in. This person was more than 2 meters tall and was burly like a small mountain. He gave off a strong psychological pressure. He laughed sinisterly. But you don't know. Anfia is also my friend. Using the old Huaxia saying, there's a path to heaven, but you don't take it, there's no door to hell, but you barge in. He approached step by step, the marble floor cracking under his footsteps. He laughed sinisterly. His every move was filled with power, and his gaze was as sharp as a vicious wolf's. Seeing this, Xionghan was so frightened that his legs trembled and his face turned pale. If he stepped on a person, they would probably break bones and tear tendons. No, they would be stomped into a pile of meat paste. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat. This person's physical body had awakened. Although it wasn't complete, his strength was comparable to a martial arts grandmaster. Bill, one of the 4 generals of Tomahawk, the person in charge of the Moscow branch. Anfia crossed her arms, raised her chin slightly, and said coldly. Former Kerberg Level 8 agent, member of the Winter Soldier Reserve Force. He once killed a Chinese martial arts master. Li, you are all my friends. I can't side with anyone. If you defeat Bill, they will repay you for the mining rights. From then on, you and Tomahawk will be written off. He once killed a martial arts master. We are no match for him. Cold sweat broke out on Li Jiangguo's forehead as he scanned the outside. His heart suddenly sank. There were hundreds of burly men in camouflage uniforms gathered outside. Their eyes were fierce, and they were armed with live ammunition. There were even heavy machine guns and shoulder-fired rockets. They were smoking and chatting with Paul and Anfia's guards. They were Tomahawk's men. There was no way to escape in this situation. Li Wan was so scared that her face turned pale and her body trembled. He's Bill. Xionghan had heard of Bill before and exclaimed. In Moscow, Bill was a legend, a myth, a monster, and a demon. It was said that he could withstand machine gun fire and kill people in a hail of bullets. It was said that he would tear people alive and even eat their hearts. It was said that he was so strong that he could flip a small car over with his bare hands. At this moment, Xionghan could no longer bear the psychological pressure. His emotions exploded as he shouted at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, you can call me trash, you can call me a coward, but so what? Look at the formation outside. Are they something you can afford to offend? Grenades. Heavy machine guns. Rockets. Look at Bill's strength. He can crush marble with one step. Do you understand the principle of enduring for a while? It turns out that we won't necessarily die. Spending a little more money can settle this. But now that you've killed someone, they're chasing after you. If they don't give up, let's see how you're going to deal with this. Jiang Tian, you're just an ordinary person. So what if you know Kung Fu? Look at the situation now. Can you handle it? We're going to die because of you. He pushed Jiang Tian and shouted hysterically, he's the one who killed us. We didn't fight back. It's him. Xionghan. Li Jiangguo was extremely disappointed in him. He slapped him in the face and shouted angrily. Do you think you can escape by begging for mercy? You're wrong. They'll kill you all. It's useless to beg for mercy in front of fierce wolves and tigers. Because he wants to eat you. It's his instinct to eat you. Xiaoheng fell to the ground, tears and snot running down his face. He shouted crazily, I didn't fight back. Why do you want to kill me? Kill him. Kill Jiang Tian. He's the culprit. Ha, former KGB agent? Jiang Tian was calm. He took a step forward and said calmly, Winter Soldier Reserve member. What's so great about that? He's just a piece of trash that I can kill with one slap. Seeing this, even Li Jiangguo felt that Jiang Tian was too arrogant and overconfident, or even overestimating his own abilities. Even if you're good at fighting, can you beat a former KGB agent? Can someone who can enter the KGB and the Winter Soldier Reserve be an ordinary person? Bill was really famous in Russia. He was also very powerful and scary. He had killed a martial arts master before. There were even a lot of dark fairy tales and legends around him. He could even stop children from crying at night. Otherwise, how could he dominate the entire Moscow and make such a name for himself? Even the Italian mafia had to be wary of him. Even Li Wan, who worshipped Jiang Tian and treated him like a god, did not have much confidence in Jiang Tian. Bill was the legendary KGB agent and Winter Soldier. He was an existence that only appeared in action movies. Ordinary people in real life were no match for him. At this moment, Xiaoheng almost laughed out loud. At this juncture, Jiang Tian still dared to boast so shamelessly. But, great. That's great. Jiang Tian recklessly stood up and attracted Bill's firepower. Maybe Bill would forget about me. The more tragic Jiang Tian's death was, the more it would prove that my forbearance was right and that I was very wise. Who knows, maybe Li Wan would change her mind about him. And Faya looked at Jiang Tian with a hint of mockery in her eyes. This Hua Xia kid is courting death. At this moment, Jiang Tian had an ordinary appearance in the mortal world. He was handsome and delicate, and his fingers were even more translucent than a girl's. Not to mention Bill, he was even weaker than Li Jiangguo. Go to hell. Bang! Bill was indeed a former KGB elite. He knew that even a lion would use all its strength to catch a rabbit. Even though he felt that Jiang Tian was weak, he still did not show any mercy. He threw a punch, and it was like a cannonball flying across the sky. The air exploded, and the surrounding furniture was blown away by the wind. Unfortunately, Jiang Tian could even defeat the Wolf King Alexander, let alone an ordinary physical awakened. How could he be a match for him? Get lost. Jiang Tian just waved his hand casually. Boom. Jiang Tian's translucent jade-like hand was like the giant palm of a mighty miracle god, containing a tremendous amount of strange power. On the contrary, the burly Bill, who looked like a brown bear, was like a piece of paper in front of Jiang Tian, unable to withstand a single blow. The huge and majestic body that could withstand the barrage of a machine gun exploded in an instant, turning into a sky full of sparkling and translucent blood rain, sprinkling down in a flurry. Hiss. Seeing this scene, whether it was Anfaya, the Tomahawks, or the Manor's bodyguards, they all gasped. No one expected that the ordinary-looking Jiang Tian could kill Bill with one slap. After all, Bill was once a reserve member of the Winter Soldier organization. He was unparalleled in strength. Who else? Let's go together. With his hands behind his back, Jiang Tian calmly glanced at Anfaya and the other Tomahawks. The whole place was dead silent. No one dared to say a word. Chapter 736. Anfia's face turned pale. Then, a silver-haired old man behind her leaned over and whispered something into her ear. Anfia gave Jiang Tian a knowing look and said with a smile, "Fine, you win. I will keep my promise." With Jiang Tian's sharp divine sense, he naturally sensed that the old man was speaking to Anfia. Miss Anfia, this man must be a martial artist from Huaxia. He might even be a transcendent master. Don't mess with him. Those who could see Jiang Tian's power were not ordinary people. Jiang Tian noticed that the old man had used some kind of strange Dharma spells. He must be a Caucasian shaman who was as powerful as a Dharma master from Huaxia. However, Jiang Tian didn't care about such a small fry. If the old man dared to provoke him, he would kill him with a slap. Anfia looked at Jiang Tian and then walked out of the door. She called a few tomahawks over and said, "Bill failed. Bill failed. Li is my friend, so you have to fulfill your promise and give me face. Give him back his mining rights. Also, don't harass him in the future. Otherwise, my family will not sit back and do nothing." "Yes, Miss Anfia." Anfia was very authoritative, so the tomahawks didn't dare to disobey her. Someone prepared a contract and brought it to Jiang Tian. "Mr. Li, please forgive us for offending you in the past. Russians were a nation of warriors who worshipped the strong. Now that they had seen Jiang Tian's strength, the battle axes had a whole new level of respect for Jiang Tian. They bowed deeply, and their respect for Li Jiangguo increased. Li Jiangguo took the contract and cast a grateful look at Jiang Tian. He heaved a sigh of relief. Anfia was very influential in Russia. She could drink and chat with the emperor. With her and Jiang Tian's power, the tomahawks didn't dare to cause any trouble. Xiong also approached Jiang Tian with a fawning look on his face. He knelt down and kowtowed to Jiang Tian. "Mr. Jiang, I'm convinced. I didn't expect you to be an expert. You're too domineering. It is my honor to be your friend." "Since when am I your friend?" Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and pointed at Xiong. "This person has nothing to do with me. I won't protect him." "Mr. Jiang, we won't stand on ceremony then. Actually, we also need to kill someone to report to the headquarters." "Thank you, Mr. Jiang." The tomahawks were about to leave, but at this moment, they suddenly stopped and smiled maliciously at Xiong. One of them pulled out a pistol and pointed it at the back of Xiong head. "Jiang Tian, spare my life. Help me say something, I know I was wrong. I really..." Xiong was scared out of his wits, and his tears and mucus flowed freely. He kowtowed like he was pounding garlic, and even his forehead was bleeding profusely. But his begging came to an abrupt end. The tomahawk unceremoniously opened fire and blew up Xiong head. Xiong fell to the ground, his brain matter splattered all over the floor. Li Wan was so scared that she trembled and screamed. Only then did she realize Jiang Tian's decisiveness and ruthlessness. Li Jiangguo just shook his head helplessly, but he didn't try to persuade Jiang Tian at all. It wasn't that he didn't dare to persuade him, but that he didn't want to. He felt that Xiong wasn't worth him saying anything. Jiang Tian had saved Xiong life, but Xiong even wanted to hand Jiang Tian over to Tomahawk. That was simply ungrateful. Today, when things came to a head, he pushed Jiang Tian out to take the bullet and even insulted Jiang Tian. Fear in the face of death was understandable, but such a cowardly person didn't deserve sympathy. "Mr. Jiang, Mr. Li, you are qualified to explore Severnaya Zemlya with me." Anfia brought over 2 glasses of red wine and smiled. "In fact, other than wanting to end the feud between Mr. Li and Tomahawk, I also want to test your skills. To be honest, the place I'm going to is very dangerous. Now, congratulations, you've passed the test. Mr. Jiang, there's no need for me to go to Severnaya Zemlya." Li Jiangguo hesitated and smiled bitterly. Anfia and Jiang Tian weren't ordinary people. Li Jiangguo felt a little uneasy about going to Severnaya Zemlya together. Besides, although he wanted to repay Jiang Tian by sending him off, he was actually fleeing. Now that the crisis was over, he could go back. Jiang Tian saw through him and smiled. Mr. Li, you'll have to part in the end. I'm very touched that you've sent me here. Okay, Master Kong, then I'll go back. You must be careful, I have a feeling that she's not that simple. Li Jiangguo looked at Anfia meaningfully and spoke in Chinese. Don't worry. Jiang Tian comforted. In Russia, not many people can hurt me. You can go back. Li Jiangguo drove away with his daughter. The two of them were in a complicated mood. Neither of them spoke. After they had gone far, Li Wan was still looking back at the manor. Daughter, don't look anymore. It's useless. He's not the same as us. Li Jiangguo smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yeah, he's too strong. I hope he'll be safe on this trip. Li Wan lowered her eyes and sighed bitterly. That night, Jiang Tian rested in a guest room in the manor and meditated silently. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense. Anfia was wearing black silk pajamas and holding a glass of red wine. She was standing outside the door with a drunken look. Mr. Jiang, you haven't paid for the room or the travel expenses. Don't you think you need to pay something? Anfia's face was flushed. Her skin was snow-white, and her figure was extremely hot. The bow on her shoulder seemed to be tempting him to untie it. Jiang Tian said indifferently, How much? I'll give it to you. I'm afraid you can't afford what I want. Anfia sat down beside Jiang Tian and wrapped her snow-white arms around his shoulders as she spoke in a tender voice. How much? Give me a price. Jiang Tian frowned. Anfia's luscious lips moved to Jiang Tian's ear and whispered, Accompany me for one night or the rest of your life. It's your choice. I'm fine with either. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly and shook his head. Miss Anfia, thank you for your kindness. Unfortunately, I have a wife, and we have a very good relationship. Then do you mind having another hot and passionate lover? Anfia pulled Jiang Tian's arm coquettishly and pressed her full breasts against him, giving him a very subtle feeling. I'm sorry, please leave. If you insist, I can stay in a hotel outside. Jiang Tian said firmly. Russian girls are so valiant, to actually covet my beauty in such a straightforward manner. Looks like I'll have to make myself uglier next time I come out. I'll change into Little Wei's appearance. He's ordinary and ugly. Alright, Mr. Jiang. We'll set off tomorrow. We'll calculate the travel expenses when we're done. Anfia's face turned red with embarrassment and anger. She slammed the door and left with a glass of wine. She was different from Paris. She was promiscuous and liked to hook up with men. She originally thought that Jiang Tian would gladly endure hardship since she came from a good family and was beautiful. She didn't expect Jiang Tian to not give her any face. The next morning, a few more VIPs arrived by helicopter. They looked like they were either rich or powerful. From their conversation, Jiang Tian realized that they all knew each other. They were all from large Russian tycoons or powerful families. For this expedition, Anfia had prepared a Mi-26 heavy-duty transport helicopter. It could carry up to 20 tons and was one of the most powerful transport helicopters in the world. Of course, it was expensive. However, Anfia had 7 or 8 helicopters like this. It was obvious that Anfia's family was wealthy. Everyone, let's set off. The leader was a burly man in combat uniform. His nickname was Tank. He was fully armed and capable. According to the introduction, he used to be a Special Forces member of Russia's Alpha anti-terrorist unit. After retiring, he specialized in being an expedition guide in extreme areas and served the nobles. He was very experienced and had been to Severnaya Zemlya many times. Anfia and the others also seemed to frequently explore Severnaya Zemlya. They had all kinds of advanced equipment. There were all kinds of protective clothing, ski equipment, tents, sleeping bags, compressed food, snowproof glasses, windproof night vision goggles, and so on. Only Jiang Tian didn't bring any equipment. Moreover, he wore very thin clothes. It was obvious that he was a layman. Originally, everyone had finished their preparations and was about to set off. But at this moment, a tall young man pointed at Jiang Tian and said disdainfully, "Princess Anfia, why do you have to bring this Huaxia guy? He doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken and will delay our operation." Anfia smiled and said, "Xiao En, this Mr. Jiang from Huaxia is an expert. He once defeated Tomahawk's Bill. I think he will be of help." Xiao En was the son of a mining oligarch in Russia. His wealth was about the same as Anfia's family. Moreover, he had always been pursuing Anfia. Anfia didn't like him very much, but she wouldn't offend Jiang Tian because of him. She had a feeling that she couldn't understand Jiang Tian. He is indeed a martial arts expert. He should be from a martial arts family in Huaxia. The old servant standing behind Anfia, Connolly, also explained with a smile. Connolly was very old. His white hair was curly and his white beard was neatly trimmed. His figure was tall and straight, and his aura was strict. His strength was actually a bit stronger than Tomahawk's Bill and Black Bear. The tank leader and many members of the defense team looked at him with reverence and worship. What? He defeated Bill. The rich young masters present all exclaimed in surprise. Bill was famous in Russia. He was one of the top experts in Tomahawk. It was said that he once served in the Winter Army. However, this handsome Huaxia kid had actually defeated him. Only Xiao En snorted in disdain. Others didn't know, but he was a descendant of the Wolf King, Alexander. Defeating Bill could frighten others, but in his eyes, it wasn't worth mentioning. Okay, I respect Princess Anfia's opinion. Xiao En didn't argue. He raised his hand and pointed at Jiang Tian. Huaxia kid, it's no problem to bring you along, but don't be a burden to us. You have to bring dry food, oxygen bags, and protective clothing, Jiang Tian turned to look at Xiao En. His eyes were gloomy as he said indifferently, "Is it your turn to tell me what to do?" Chapter 737. In the eyes of others, Jiang Tian's attitude was lukewarm and indifferent. But to Sean, it was no different from a muffled clap of thunder ringing in his ears. Moreover, an extremely horrifying scene appeared before his eyes. On an ancient battlefield where corpses were piled up like mountains and blood flowed like rivers, Jiang Tian stood proudly with a height of 300 meters. His feet were stepping on piles of white bones, and his pair of eyes were like two divine lamps. His cold gaze was 100 meters long, sweeping through the myriad of worlds and overlooking all living things. Around him, huge demon heads were sent flying, evil dragons with their guts pierced through fell to the ground, and distant stars exploded like fireworks. Xiao En suddenly felt a sharp baleful aura forcefully cut open his sturdy heart. All kinds of violent, tragic, savage, and terrifying emotions were forcibly poured into his heart, causing it to suddenly stop beating and making it difficult for him to breathe. At this moment, Sean was scared out of his wits. His hair stood on end, and cold sweat poured out of his body. He couldn't help but tremble, and his divine soul almost shattered. Thump! Thump, thump, thump. Sean took 5 or 6 steps back and staggered to the ground. He screamed, "Who are you? Let me go." "Sean, what's wrong with you?" Several young brothers came forward to support Sean with strange expressions. Sean was not only good at fighting, but also extremely daring. He once went alone to the primeval forest of the Siberian plateau to hunt brown bears and dire wolves. He didn't bring any supplies and survived for 3 months, even gaining a few pounds. But now, he was so scared that he lost his composure. "Humph, behave yourself, or I'll kill you." Jiang Tian's indifferent and cold voice was only heard by Sean alone. As the voice sounded, the fantasy before Sean's eyes disappeared and he returned to reality. "It's nothing," Sean waved his hands at his companions. His face was pale as he looked at Jiang Tian with lingering fear. Then, he rushed into the M-26 transport plane and didn't dare to say another word. The young masters of the prestigious families looked at each other, baffled. Then, they clustered around Anfia and boarded the helicopter. The old servant behind Anfia, Connolly, had a thoughtful look in his eyes. He leaned forward and whispered into Anfia's ear. Maybe he's using Hua Xia's illusion technique. Xiao En, who has werewolf blood, was so scared that he almost cried. Is this the reason why he's so confident in ignoring my pursuit? The journey to the island of death this time is long. I will have the chance to test your background. On the other hand, Princess Anfea was sitting in the cabin, sipping her hot coffee as she looked at Jiang Tian, who was sitting far away from them, with a trace of embarrassment in her eyes. Everyone boarded the plane one after another. Other than Anfia, Sean, and the other corporate scions, they also brought along more than 10 supporting members. Jiang Tian noticed that they were not ordinary soldiers. Many of them even had werewolf blood or were Caucasian shamans or priests. They all had a certain level of magical power. It was just that they were wearing modern combat uniforms, which made people mistakenly think that they were ordinary soldiers. A large wooden box in the cabin was filled with a large amount of firearms. There were heavy machine guns, grenades, rocket launchers, and even laser weapons that conventional troops would not be equipped with. After the helicopter took off and flew for a while, the atmosphere in the cabin gradually became lively. Xiao En seemed to think that the illusion that appeared when he looked into Jiang Tian's eyes was a hallucination that happened when he drank too much last night, and his mind relaxed. However, he did not dare to harass Jiang Tian again. This was not their first time exploring the Northern Isles, and they began to share the fun of exploring the Northern Isles, aurora, polar bears, thick-billed sea crows, warm wooden houses, and mellow vodka. At first, their conversation was unable to attract Jiang Tian's attention. It was all about the fun of the trip. But suddenly, one of the young masters excitedly slapped his thigh and laughed. We always get the most out of the sword's grave. Last time, I picked up an antique jade pendant and gave it to my grandfather. My grandfather originally had cancer, but he recovered in 3 months. It was simply amazing. The sword's grave, according to Chinese, was naturally the sword tomb. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this group of people also went to the Northern Isles for the sword tomb? No wonder Anfia had repeatedly emphasized that this expedition was very dangerous. That was the place where the immortals had fallen. Of course, there would be some formations and restrictions. If ordinary people approached, wouldn't they die miserably? Yes, do you still remember the short sword I picked up last time? It could easily cut through Kevlar bulletproof vests. I asked Hua Xia's antique experts to appraise it. They said that it was a sword from the Warring States period and was worth at least 5 million euros. Another young master said with a smile of exultation. I picked up a helmet. Another young master also began to show off excitedly. We must go to the sword's grave. Anfia frowned. But everyone must be very careful there. After all, we have experienced a risk. 8 bodyguards have died. At the mention of this, everyone's expression changed. The atmosphere was solemn, and there was some fear in their eyes. That's right. What is that thing? It looked like a black gas, but it could swallow a living person. One of the young masters swallowed his saliva and said. I think it was an aurora. It floated around and changed rapidly. Another young master interrupted. It's not an aurora. There has never been a black aurora. Another young master shook his head and said with a fearful expression. Besides, there has never been an aurora swallowing a living person. I've consulted a few meteorologists in my family's company. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be afraid. At this moment, Connolly smiled and said, this time, we have made ample preparations and are equipped with a large number of firearms. He said confidently. Besides, our team members are also extraordinary. They are all from my powerful family. Yes, Mr. Connolly is very powerful. I once saw him break a cannonball with one punch, but he himself was unharmed. And Fia also looked at this old servant who had guarded her for more than 10 years with admiration. And Fia was not very clear about Connolly's identity. But even her father was very respectful to him, saying that he was of noble status and had an extraordinary background. Connolly only stayed by Fia's side because he was indebted to her family. Otherwise, he would not have been able to afford to hire her. Mr. Connolly is actually so powerful. With Connolly and the support team, our trip will be very safe. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Connolly in awe before they began to flatter him. At this moment, Jiang Tian suddenly said indifferently, "Mr. Connolly, don't go to the sword tomb. Mr. Connolly, it's best that you don't go to the sword catacomb. It's very dangerous there, more dangerous than any previous adventure. You also know about the sword tomb." Connolly's expression was strange, and he immediately became vigilant. He originally thought that Jiang Tian did not know anything about it, but his cultivation was strong, so he brought along Jiang Tian. If there was any danger, he could use Jiang Tian as a meat shield to facilitate his escape. But he did not expect that Jiang Tian actually knew about the sword tomb. Then, it was very likely that Jiang Tian would fight for the treasures that originally belonged to them. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and did not comment. He had only met Fia and the others by chance, and his impression of them was only so-so. "Mr. Jiang, you advised us not to go to the sword tomb. What about you?" Connolly's eyes were sharp as he probed. "Of course I'm going." Jiang Tian said indifferently, "It's best if you send me to the sword tomb and leave on your own. Otherwise, you will die an unnatural death." Jiang Tian said this for a reason, and it was also out of goodwill. The sword tomb opened once every 11 years. In their previous explorations, the restrictions had not been opened. To put it bluntly, they had only circled around the sword tomb. Now that the restrictions were opened, many formless killing formations would also be activated, and it would be 10 times more dangerous than before. One had to know that cultivators were always proud and arrogant. They even looked down on the world with disdain. They regarded life as nothing more than grass and used all living beings as chess pieces. The inheritances that they left behind were not to be passed down lightly, and only those who are virtuous and talented. They would set up very dangerous restrictions and formations. Only the powerful cultivators who could break the restrictions could obtain the inheritances and inheritances. Ordinary people would be courting death if they went there. Connolly smiled coldly when he heard that. "Mr. Jiang, I know you're quite capable, but you're underestimating us too much. You are just a transcendent state cultivator or even an internal force cultivator. You don't have the experience of exploring the sword catacomb and know nothing about it. Who gave you the courage to say such things? Do you think that you can do it if we can't?" "That's right, I think so. If you go, you will only be cannon fodder." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "Mr. Jiang, you are so funny." Connolly was already a little annoyed. "How do you know that I am a Caucasian shaman? How do you know that I am powerful and extraordinary?" However, he couldn't expose his identity as a shaman. He didn't mention it, but said disdainfully, "Mr. Jiang, are you trying to scare us away so that you can enjoy the treasures of the sword tomb alone? You are so cunning and selfish. You should know that we are the ones who took you to Severnaya Zemlya. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to touch the door of the sword tomb. You can say that we are your benefactors. But now, you actually... you've really disappointed me." Jiang Tian shook his head and closed his eyes without saying a word. Some people were always full of themselves and took other people's kindness for granted. Some people were so arrogant that they only realized their insignificance and weakness after suffering a loss. Seeing that Jiang Tian didn't speak, Xiaoen thought that Connolly could intimidate Jiang Tian. "Mr. Jiang, you didn't even bring the necessary equipment for an adventure. If we don't let you share our fire seed and food, I am afraid that you will starve to death in less than 3 days. When the time comes, you'll be crying. The other young masters were also very unhappy with Jiang Tian and echoed. Alright, let's stop talking. Since we are going together, we are friends, or even comrades. I hope that everyone can work together and help each other. Seeing Jiang Tian's cold eyes, Anfia hurriedly tried to persuade him. But in fact, she also despised Jiang Tian a little at this time. Although Anfia was dissolute and had a messy private life, she had one good point: she was hot-blooded, righteous, and forthright. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to become the spiritual leader of so many Russian young masters and organize such a dangerous adventure. What she hated the most were those who were petty, selfish, and didn't have team spirit. At this time, Anfia had clearly regarded Jiang Tian as such a person. She was very disappointed and despised Jiang Tian. She almost scolded Jiang Tian as shameless. Chapter 738. After this conversation, Jiang Tian's relationship with Anfia's group was even worse. In the end, the two sides didn't communicate at all. Anfia's group drank vodka, ate cheese, smoked cigars, and talked cheerfully. They ignored Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was also happy to have some peace and quiet. But where did Zhang Qianlei go? Jiang Tian frowned and thought to himself. Along the way, he tried to contact Zhang Qianlei with the satellite phone several times, but he didn't get a response. This made Jiang Tian worried that Zhang Qianlei might be in danger. Guys, we've arrived at Severnaya Zemlya. Let's fly directly to the silent island where the graveyard of swords is located. After the helicopter flew for a few hours, the bearded pilot shouted. We're finally here. The graveyard of swords, we're here. Treasures. There are countless treasures waiting for us. Everyone looked out through the porthole, their eyes filled with excitement and anticipation as they rubbed their palms. Guys, the snow is too thick. We don't know the actual terrain under the snow, so we can't land on the ground. We might fall into the snow and become specimens. The bearded pilot shouted at the top of his voice. So, guys, you can only parachute. But I don't think this will be a challenge for the brave warriors, right? Of course. Sean excitedly took out parachutes and distributed them. He said nonchalantly, we all love extreme sports and have experience in parachuting. He gave one to everyone, except for Jiang Tian. Finally, he looked at Jiang Tian and smiled. Sorry, we don't have enough parachutes. You'd better return with them, or just jump. He opened the hatch with a click. A gust of cold wind mixed with snowflakes poured in, making everyone's breathing stagnate. Shaoen's voice was full of mockery and ridicule. After all, the snow here is very thick. It's like a cushion. You shouldn't be hurt. In fact, there were plenty of parachutes in the cabin. However, Sean deliberately made things difficult for Jiang Tian. Either Jiang Tian had no choice but to return, so there would be one less competitor. Either Jiang Tian would recklessly jump down, and that would only be a dead end. Right now, the helicopter was at least a few hundred meters above the ground. Even with the ice and snow as a buffer, there was no chance of survival if he jumped down. Shaoen, don't joke about this, Anfia wanted to stop him but was stopped by Connolly. Mr. Jiang is a true hero and brave man. This small challenge is no problem at all. Connolly was also extremely unhappy with Jiang Tian. At this moment, he wanted to checkmate Jiang Tian. He believed that Jiang Tian would not give up the opportunity to explore the sword tomb, but he did not dare to jump down directly. In that case, he could only beg them for mercy. This way, he could take the opportunity to humiliate Jiang Tian. Mr. Jiang, are you still not going to jump? I've heard that Hua Xia's cultivators are very powerful. They shouldn't be afraid. At this time, Shaoen actually took out his pistol and waved it. The threat was clear as day. It was as if he would kill him if he didn't jump. Yes. Everyone, goodbye. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian's expression did not change at all. He stepped into the air and jumped down from the cabin door. Ah! It's over. Anfia's expression changed drastically as she screamed. She did not expect Jiang Tian to jump down without a care for his life. Everyone was also dumbfounded. Oh no, he's dead. He actually jumped down. It's at least 600 meters above sea level, someone whispered. It's 1,000 meters. The pilot said dryly. Slap. Anfia slapped Xiao En and said angrily, You're trying to murder him. Xiao En covered his face and explained, I didn't force him. He jumped on his own. Is it my fault? It's okay. This is no man's land. No one will care about the life and death of a Chinese. Connolly sneered. Miss Anfia, this Mr. Zhang's background is unknown. He might become our competitor. It's best if he dies. Anfia had mixed feelings. As a former member of the KGB and the eldest daughter of her family, she was not a kind person. Whether it was for the interests of the country or her family's business interests, she had killed more people than she could count with 2 hands. But at this moment, she still felt a little uncomfortable. After all, she had a good impression of Jiang Tian. But it was too late to say anything now. Anfia quickly put Jiang Tian to the back of her mind and parachuted down with everyone, landing on Silent Island. This island, looking from the south to the north, looked like a long and narrow shoe. It was about 50 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide. It was not small and covered in ice and snow. Originally, it had a Russian name. But since a few years ago, someone had discovered many ruins here and found a piece of land with the words, Sword Tomb, carved on it. This place was called Silent Island, or Sword Tomb Island. 10 minutes later, parachutes floated down, and Anfia and the others landed on the ground. At this moment, they were at the heel position. Because the North Pole had heavy snowstorms in winter, it was not safe for the helicopter to fly further north. And the Sword Tomb should be at the heel position. It was still about 40 to 50 kilometers north of them, so they still needed to trek for a while. After everyone landed, they used satellite phones to contact each other. 7 or 8 young masters and a dozen guards landed safely. Fuck. At this moment, Sean cursed over the walkie-talkie. My food fell into the sea. In order to safely parachute down, their weapons and food were placed in 2 large boxes and landed with parachutes. After the food landed, everyone carried a bag. But the wind here was too strong, and it was not suitable for parachuting. They had landed safely with hundreds of parachuting experience, but they did not expect their food to be blown into the sea. Now, they only had a small amount of food on them, which could last about 3 days. If we reduce our food intake, it will be enough. Anfia thought for a moment and said in a low voice. Everyone gathered together and headed towards the north. The Sword Tomb Island was a barren land. There was thick snow and ice everywhere, and the snow could reach up to their knees when they stepped on it. Moreover, even monkey-beaked seabirds and polar bears were rare here. It would be difficult for them to even hunt some game. There was already a polar night here, and there was no distinction between day and night. They had trekked for 5 or 6 hours and had only traveled about 10 kilometers. Other than Connolly, who was still okay, everyone was so hungry that their chests were sticking to their stomachs. They were so tired that they were panting. At this moment, they suddenly smelled a tempting meat fragrance. Sean sniffed and drooled. Someone's barbecuing meat. I'm dying. Yes. Someone's barbecuing meat. Find him. Everyone was very excited. After searching for a while, they finally saw a scene that made them dumbfounded. They saw Jiang Tian sitting cross-legged on a patch of snow with a grill in front of him. He was happily roasting a plump hare. The hare was sprinkled with cumin, salt, and honey. It had already been roasted to a golden brown color. The aroma permeated the air, and the charcoal fire was red. Hot oil sizzled out, creating small flames on the charcoal fire. It was very tempting. Jiang Tian, you're not dead. Anfia was overjoyed. What's his cultivation level? He's not dead. Connolly's face showed a hint of suspicion and wariness. Tank and the other guards also looked serious. Jiang, your cooking is really good. Can you lend us half of it? Sean ran forward and reached out to take it. Get lost. Jiang Tianxin waved his hand, causing him to stumble backwards. You can't finish it anyway. What's wrong with giving us some? How can you be so stingy? Sean said angrily. I can feed it to the dogs if I can't finish it, but I won't give it to you. Jiang Tian sneered. Sean had forced him to jump off the plane because Jiang Tian was powerful. If he was a normal person, he would have died. Now he was trying to take advantage of him again. How shameless. You. Sean was so angry that his face turned red. His hand reached for the pistol at his waist, but when he saw Anfia beside him, he could only suppress his anger and mock. Humph, you didn't bring a tent or warm clothes. There will be a time when you beg us. With that, he turned around angrily. Jiang Tian, how did you land safely just now? Anfia asked curiously. Jiang Tianli ignored all of them and just ate the roasted rabbit with relish. What's there to be arrogant about? Is that so great? Anfia had felt a little guilty toward Jiang Tian, but when she saw that he was ignoring her, she couldn't help but feel a little angry. She was proud of her beauty, and she was the daughter of a rich oligarch. Even the Russian emperor doted on her. After eating the hare, he continued to walk forward with a swagger. Anfia's group followed behind him. This kid is too annoying. Why don't we kill him? Sean said viciously to Connolly as he stared at Jiang Tian's back. Wait. Connolly frowned and thought hard. He was eating a roasted rabbit just now. It wasn't a polar bear, seal, or seabird. This is too strange. It was indeed a roasted rabbit. I saw the skin of a roasted rabbit next to him. It was gray. The tank guide frowned and said. But how could there be a roasted rabbit in the Arctic Circle? He must have brought it here. But Connolly's clothes were thin and he didn't have a bag. He also didn't have a place to bring a roasted rabbit. It's very strange. Yes, it's very strange. There's no way to explain it. Sean also noticed the abnormality and scratched his head. Connolly quickly walked over to Anfia and told her his analysis and suspicions. Then, his eyes flashed with greed. He was so excited that his hands were slightly trembling as he said in a deep voice, "That's right. It's rumored that the cultivation world of Huaxia has a spatial artifact. It can fold space. Maybe he's using this kind of thing. Let's find a suitable opportunity to kill him and steal his treasure." Chapter 739. Connolly's eyes were greedy as he eagerly said, "If our research team can understand the secret of space control and mass-produce this kind of treasure, we will be rich. This is an epoch-making scientific advancement, it can even be called a revolution." Anfia pondered for a moment, but still shook her head and said, "Uncle Connolly, I have always respected your opinion, but this time, I don't agree." "Why?" Connolly asked puzzledly. Could it be that Princess Anfia likes him? It's not worth it. He has some ability, but he is just an ordinary person. How is that possible? I, Anfia, do not belong to any man, I only belong to myself. Anfia's face turned red as she defended herself. I knew it, Anfia would not like him. Only someone like the Russian emperor can be worthy of the noble Anfia. Connolly laughed, but then his face turned gloomy as he said, "Then there's no problem. As long as you give the order, Tank and I will immediately take action. We have rockets, grenades, and even a laser gun. Killing him should not be a problem. Mr. Connolly, I believe you have the strength, but this is robbery, this is murder. I am not willing to do this. Anthea said, I believe in cooperation more now. Give me some time, I can persuade him to cooperate with us. We will give him a large sum of money, and he will take out his treasure for our research. He can also help us with our research. Isn't this a good thing? All right, you can try. But I think he is too arrogant, he might not agree. Connolly bitterly smiled and did not insist. At this time, Jiang Tian had already spread out his divine sense and heard their conversation, but Jiang Tian did not take it to heart. They wanted to kill him with just a few sticks, it was no different from a fool's dream. But Jiang Tian was too lazy to deal with them. Because Jiang Tian had discovered something even stranger. The entire Sword Tomb Island seemed to have a very frightening and strange power. This power was erratic, making it difficult for Jiang Tian to circulate his true yuan. If he wanted to fly, the consumption of true yuan was not small. Moreover, the range of his divine sense was greatly reduced. Originally, Jiang Tian's spiritual sense could cover a distance of over 100 miles, but now it could only scan an area of about 10 miles. Moreover, Jiang Tian realized that his satellite phone had no signal at all. At this time, Xiao En and Tank were also complaining that the signal of the walkie-talkie had disappeared again. They asked everyone to stay together and not get separated. Jiang Tian had been cultivating for 10,000 years and had a wealth of experience. Through some clues, Jiang Tian quickly determined that this was not the power of the Sword Tomb's formation or restriction, but an extremely rare creature. Or rather, demons. In the Arctic Circle, especially near the Severnaya Zemlya, many unsolved mysteries had happened. In 1922, the research ship, Blue Seagull, of the Russian Academy of Sciences once sailed and conducted scientific research near the Severnaya Zemlya, but suddenly the satellite signal was cut off and they lost contact. A few months later, the Russian Navy's salvage team found the blue seabird near Elam Island in Severnaya Zemlya. However, there was no one on the ship. All 24 members of the scientific research team had disappeared into thin air. However, the strange thing was that there were no traces of a struggle, and there was no loss of property. What was even more strange was that although the black box on the blue seabird looked intact on the outside, the data recorded inside had disappeared without a trace. The black box was fireproof, shockproof, and waterproof. Historically, it was almost impossible for the data to disappear. Later, scientific researchers discovered that the electromagnetic waves near the Severnaya Zemlya would be severely interfered with, or even completely disappear. Therefore, in the scientific community, this area was also known as the Land of Dead Silence or Island of Dead Silence. In addition, there were also moving stones. According to NASA's observation, on the Sword Tomb Island, through the comparison of satellite images, there were many boulders weighing more than a few tons that could move on the ice by themselves and could travel thousands of meters in one night. Until now, many scientists had come up with various speculations and explanations for this strange phenomenon. There were also huge footprints. There were once tourists who discovered huge footprints more than 50 centimeters long on the Severnaya Zemlya. They took photos and posted them on the internet. There were even people who took pictures of the giants and snow monsters appearing in this place, and they spoke with certainty. However, because it was a civilian who discovered and took photos and posted them, many authorities claimed that it was just a gimmick deliberately created by some bored people who wanted to become famous, just like the crop circle. However, considering that when Jiang Tian defeated Japan and France, there were official refutations of these rumors, it seemed that these rumors were not just groundless accusations. If these rumors are true, then it might really be the doing of these monsters. Jiang Tian heaved a long sigh, frowned, and muttered to himself. I didn't expect that such a rare monster would appear on Earth. Logically speaking, such a powerful monster shouldn't appear in this world. Could it be that there was a crisscross and chaos in the parallel space that led them to enter Earth? This kind of monster was so powerful that it could be said that other than Jiang Tian, there were few people on Earth who knew how to deal with it. Even the immortal state, mortal deity, and Earth deity had no way to deal with it. Basically, no one who entered the Sword Tomb Island today except for him could survive. Therefore, he did not intend to kill Xiao En, Connolly, and the others. These cannon fodder meat shields could be used to test the strength of this strange monster. Based on the habits of this strange monster, Jiang Tian felt that there was no need to waste his true essence. He just needed to avoid it and fight it head-on. Soon, Jiang Tian found an area where he could avoid the strange monster. He decided to rest for a while and completely recover his strength and true essence before moving forward. The area Jiang Tian found was very strange. It was not covered in snow at all, and there was even steam rising from it. There were also dozens of monkey-billed seabirds gathered there. Jiang Tian took out a piece of ordinary jade and drew an array in the blink of an eye. Then, he put it in his pocket and sat there to rest. At the same time, Anfia and the others also set up tents in an area near Jiang Tian and set up camp. Jiang Tian had a good impression of Anfia. At least, she was not the kind of person who bullied the weak. Therefore, he said calmly, "Anfia, you'd better set up camp here. Otherwise, you'll be in great danger. You might even die. Of course, if you're unwilling to leave, you'll have to leave someone behind to patrol the area. It'll be easier for you to escape. I think Teacher Jiang is worrying too much." Anfia said nothing. Connolly disdainfully sneered, "This place is still very far from the sword mound. There's no danger here." He swung his sleeves and confidently said, "Even if there is danger, I'll stand guard here. There won't be any problems." Shaoan believed that Jiang Tian was waiting for an opportunity to get close to Anfia. How could he agree? He taunted, "Your place is full of bird droppings. It's too disgusting. Why would Princess Anfia go to your place?" "Thank you, Teacher Jiang, but forget it." Anfia saw that the area Jiang Tian was in was indeed full of bird droppings, so she shook her head and softly refused. The young masters immediately mocked with disdain. "That's right. Since you're so timid, you shouldn't have come here to explore. It's just a little snow here. What's there to be afraid of? You're not even afraid of Anfia, but he's scared to this extent. You're worse than a girl. He's so delicate, just like a girl. That's normal. Huaxia people are cowardly, and lacking in courage. They're a nation of sheep." In the end, even the guide, Tank, arrogantly crossed his arms and shook his head, curling his lips in disdain. "Now, I'm letting you in. You think this place is dirty. Later, when there's danger, you want to come in again. I won't give you the chance." Jiang Tian said with a mocking smile. "Who cares?" Xiao En disdainfully said. "You want to pursue Anfia? That's too funny. Others give diamonds, but you give her bird droppings." The other young masters burst into laughter. "Uncle Connolly, I think you're mistaken. Anfia originally wanted to talk to Jiang Tian about the Dharma treasure, but after thinking about it, Jiang Tian was so timid. How could he be a true expert? One had to know that those who owned Dharma treasures were definitely extraordinary existences. How could they be so timid? Perhaps Jiang Tian's hair and cooking utensils were picked up by him and left behind by the previous explorers." After hearing her explanation, Connolly slapped his thigh and laughed. "That's true. I was too nervous. A young man like him is only a transcendent realm cultivator. And those who can control Dharma treasures are said to be terrifying existences above the immortal state." At this moment, one of the young masters, Reynolds, who was close to Xiao En, snorted coldly and said in a low voice, "Since he's not an expert, let's just kill him. He's like a shadow. Too disgusting." This was a no-man's land, a place outside the law. If they killed someone, they could dig up a pile of snow and bury him. No one would find out. Therefore, many of the young masters' hidden violent tendencies were stimulated, and they were eager to give it a try. At this point, Connolly had an indifferent attitude, so he didn't say anything. Anphia looked at Jiang Tian in disappointment. This place was still very far from the sword catacomb. If he was so timid and afraid of death, wouldn't he wet his pants when he faced real danger? Sigh, perhaps I shouldn't have brought him here. Although she was disappointed, Anphia muttered to herself for a moment before finally shaking her head. Forget it, let's not cause unnecessary trouble. None of you are allowed to kill him. Okay, I'll listen to Princess Anphia. Reynolds smiled apologetically and nodded. He then gave Jiang Tian a malicious smile. But a moment later, Reynolds came to Shaoen's side and said in a low voice, I'll use the sniper rifle to kill him when Anphia isn't paying attention. I don't think anyone will find out. Okay, I'm pursuing Anphia. It's not good to kill someone in front of her. You're the best choice. Shaoen laughed mischievously and nodded. After walking for a long time, everyone was tired. After eating some rations and chatting for a while, they crawled into their tents and sleeping bags to rest. Seeing this, Jiang Tian shook his head. This group of people was too careless. They should have at least left a few people outside to patrol, but they actually all fell asleep. But Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to remind them. This group of people didn't have good intentions. He had already done his duty by reminding Anphia. That monster had already poked its head out and looked around. Now, all he had to do was wait and watch them get killed. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.